Zhang Xiaoli, a poor student, is overly focused on romantic relationships. I added her as a friend to inform her about class news, but she rejected me immediately. Sorry, no, I kindly helped her carry her suitcase, and she thought I was secretly in love with her. Even if you can't have me, there's no need to put a camera on my suitcase to spy on me. Later, I was shocked by her bizarre behavior. But she thought I was playing hard to get. She strutted in front of me in a tight dress, flirting and posing. Now that you've finally got what you wanted, you must be thrilled, you dirty man. I was so shocked by her that I made a swift exit, only for her to go live and denounce me as a total jerk. If you never liked me, why string me along in the first place? Those who betray a sincere heart deserve to rot. In the end, I was killed by a radical netizen who threw acid on me, while she climbed over my corpse to rebrand herself as the warrior of pure love. When I opened my eyes again, I had gone back to the very day I added Zhang Xiaoli. 1. Jiang Yuan, the class monitor is away for a competition. Could you take over managing the class for the next few days? Also, please let everyone know to stay behind after evening self-study. I'll just need about 10 minutes for a quick meeting. It had only been a month since the start of the university semester, and we were all just beginning to recover from the exhaustion of military training. As the academic committee member, it was part of my duty to assist the counselor. Everyone is in the class group, so I should just need to mention them once to notify them, but my roommate suddenly reminded me that Zhang Xiaoli from our class hasn't joined the group yet. Going through this again, I realized I must have been reborn in my previous life. It was also from the day I added Zhang Xiaoli that she believed I had a crush on her, claiming everything I did was to get her attention. Although I've tried my best to avoid contact with her, she always finds a way to make her presence known to me in a disgusting manner. She even claims that I'm going out of my way to get her attention, telling me not to overdo this game of cat and mouse. If it weren't for my upbringing that prevents me from cursing, I would have already wanted to insult her entire family lineage. The key is that her nonsense online, where she portrays herself as a deeply emotional woman, actually has a bunch of people believing in it and even moved by her stories. A crazy person just like her, obsessed with relationships, rushed at me and threw sulfuric acid on me. At that moment, Zhang Xiaoli also rushed out from the crowd, wailing and crying in my face. I was in so much pain that I couldn't move, not even enough strength to push her away. I died before the ambulance arrived, and as I took my last breath, I looked at Zhang Xiaoli's hypocritical face, my resentment almost bursting through the top of my head. My consciousness didn't disappear immediately. I witnessed Zhang Xiaoli building a persona of a pure love warrior online, amassing wealth and becoming a campus internet celebrity. She was no longer the poor student, while I became the heartless scumbag in everyone's eyes who deserved to die. My belief that a clear conscience fears no accusation was utterly useless in front of her. Given a second chance at life, I will never let her climb to success over my dead body again. I lowered my gaze to hide the hatred in my eyes, then tagged everyone in the class group chat once more. Please remind your roommates so no one misses the message. As for Zhang Xiaoli not joining the group chat, even the class monitor who created it doesn't seem to care, so why should I go out of my way to make it my problem? Later that evening, when the class committee took attendance after self-study, Zhang Xiaoli was absent too. In my past life, after I sent Zhang Xiaoli a friend request and she rejected it, she didn't show up for self-study that evening either. I naturally didn't care about her, so when the counselor asked me, I just explained that I couldn't get in touch with her. Afterward, the counselor talked to her, and she immediately came to find me. Student committee, if you really want to add me as a friend, you could just tell me in person. Why go to the counselor and tattle on me? I've seen enough of your men's little tricks. Zhang Xiaoli is quite helpless, and I have no idea where she gets her confidence from. If I encounter her putting on such a show in this life, I absolutely won't hold back. Student committee, didn't you notify everyone properly? The counselor asked the same question as in the previous life. I stood up and replied, I notified everyone twice and asked them to remind their roommates. As for Zhang Xiaoli, she just didn't come, and there's nothing we can do about it. I looked at the row where Zhang Xiaoli's roommate was sitting, and the three girls immediately started explaining, Counselor, we've talked to her, but she won't join her class group. Right, it seems she went to do part-time work, saying she can't afford dinner and can't come to the evening self-study session, or she'll faint from hunger. We even offered to buy her food, but she still didn't come. Such explosive incidents are all too common for Zhang Xiaoli. Her roommate's attitude speaks volumes about how fed up she is with this person. Everyone was visibly shocked. Their expressions quite a spectacle, the counselor sighed, indicating she would look into it, then proceeded with the meeting agenda. She said it would take 10 minutes, but she got to the point quickly and let us go. I bet Zhang Xiaoli's name will be the talk of every dorm room in our class tonight. Only by exposing her true colors early on and letting everyone get a clearer picture of who Zhang Xiaoli really is can we ensure that if she tries to play the devoted lover later, people will just think she's delusional. Sure enough, Zhang Xiaoli showed up in class the very next day. She came straight up to me, looking rather pale. Class rep, if you have something to say, you could have just added me privately. Did you really have to make a scene just to get my attention? The surrounding classmates were also watching with eager, gossipy eyes. I chuckled. Look, we don't even know each other. You wouldn't come to evening self-study even when your own roommate offered to buy you dinner. You can't possibly expect me to treat you, can you? We're all adults here. Whether you attend class or not is your own business. It's not like we're your parents. Who even cares? My few roommates were the first to burst out laughing. Zhang Xiaoli, are you okay? Jiang Yuan is so handsome. Girls have been lining up to chase him since the start of the semester. Does he need to get your attention? Exactly. Don't scare our Yuan Gu. Zhang Xiaoli's face turned bright red in an instant. She bit her lip and her eyes kept scanning my face. Finally, she suddenly thought of something. Chuckled lightly. Student council member. I've seen this kind of trick in novels many times, but real life isn't a novel. You can't chase a girl like this. I notified everyone about the evening study meeting, and since you didn't come, you think I'm chasing you. Come on, guys, make sure to keep your IDs safe, or she might pick one up and you'll end up married. I deliberately raised my voice. The surrounding guys burst into laughter, teasing with a few words here and there. The girls are about to suffocate. Whoever is her roommate is so unlucky. This is so embarrassing. Could Zhang Xiaoli like the class committee and be using such a creepy way to pursue them? Ha 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 ha. Her roommates look as if they've eaten shit. It's so pitiful. Because of Zhang Xiaoli, those three girls found themselves on the receiving end of all sorts of looks. I don't believe for a second they didn't have any complaints. Seeing my mocking tone, Zhang Xiaoli snorted and went to sit with her roommate. But the moment she sat down, the other girl immediately got up and moved. This sent the whole room into another fit of laughter. Zhang Xiaoli shot them a fierce glare before lowering her head to read her book. You haven't seen anything yet. 3. I withdrew my disdainful gaze and leisurely chatted with my roommates. In my previous life, they also spoke up for me, but I was too fond of putting on airs and unwilling to explain, which led to the tragedy. Now I understand. Men need to protect themselves outside, and when faced with shameless bad women, we must boldly say no. At noon, after class, everyone hurried to the cafeteria in 2s and 3s, afraid of missing out on the good dishes. My roommate and I planned to go out to eat, so we headed towards the school gate. Who knew Zhang Xiaoli would come running over too? Jiang Yuan, did you find out that I go out every noon and deliberately take the same route as me? She had an expression that said, I knew it. Some classmates were heading out of school and just happened to witness this scene. Zhang Xiaoli's smug look made me instinctively punch my roommate. Who told you to suggest going out for barbecue? Now you've caught the attention of that beauty. Spill it. Did you go snooping around for her whereabouts? I didn't hit hard. It was just a playful jab. My roommate quickly protested. You're wrong, brother Yuan. Don't scare me like that. She definitely has a partner. Why would I ask about her? Zhang Xiaoli seemed to not understand our act and immediately said, I don't have a boyfriend, but what I dislike most is how frivolous you two are. My roommate almost gagged. Sister, we already have partners. Can you please stop trying to get close to us? If our partners find out, they'll probably skin you alive, won't they? Several people chimed in. I quickly nodded. Huzi's girlfriend is very pretty. He definitely won't look at you, so don't follow us. As soon as I ran, my roommates followed me. It's hard to say if it's a coincidence, but our whole dorm is pretty good looking. 2 of us already got into relationships during military training, pursued by senior sisters. At the very least, people like Zhang Xiaoli, with her issues, all share the same desire, to stay as far away as possible, and what I intend to do is to amplify her shamelessness to the extreme. Word of this spread quickly too, but as the gossip spread, the story soon became twisted from Zhang Xiaoli constantly pestering us. She now wants to chase multiple men at once, even those who are already in relationships. She's posted on the campus confession walls several times. Some of them are obviously from her roommates' complaints, like sleeping in bed without showering on hot days, not caring about their well-being, grinding her teeth and talking in her sleep, and even claiming to have dated a certain celebrity. The level of drama is so Zhang Xiaoli. A normal person might have been too ashamed to handle such exposure. But she didn't care and even updated her social media status, know her account. So I found it with a quick search. Family, what kind of novel heroine setup is this? Poor me, the public enemy of girls, and the department hunk has taken a liking to me, including his handsome roommate who treats me differently from others. But all I want is an ordinary life. Having time to do part-time work and take care of myself is enough for me. Then add a few crying emojis. Her post is doing pretty well, quickly gaining hundreds of likes and dozens of comments. Some are waiting for the full story. Others are envious of her heroine-like qualities. It's making me feel like I'm about to pass out. Although Zhang Xiaoli's content was slightly different from her previous life, her tone remained as self-absorbed and infuriating as ever. For I took screenshots of some of her posts and her replies to netizens, and exposed them on the confession wall using a small account. It didn't take long for people to recognize that it was Zhang Xiaoli. A girl posted an anonymous complaint about her. Oh my God. Does being a scholarship student give you a free pass? Her roommate tried to help her and she refused, making them both look bad. She's constantly clinging to our class monitor, who she calls the department heartthrob, and his roommates. They all have girlfriends and have told her to back off, but she's trying to date multiple guys at once. She's so basic and such a clout chaser. A lot of people in our class commented with facepalm emojis, and she even got mocked by students from other classes. Zhang Xiaoli's social media account was dug up, and she got flamed by anonymous users in the class group chat. It was only after I, as an admin, disabled the anonymous feature. With the groundwork laid above, more and more people began to mock and ridicule, but since Zhang Xiaoli wasn't in the group, she was unaware of this. Given her relationship with her roommates, no one would remind her. During our elective class, my roommate's girlfriend happened to be free and came to join us. Zhang Xiaoli saw me sitting in the front row by the classroom door, confidently stopping in front of me and flipping her hair. Jiang Yuan, you haven't looked for me in days, so you're sitting by the door waiting for me. You're shy, so you brought your roommate along. I quickly leaned back. Hey, sis, you're flinging dandruff over here. My roommate's partner let out a very disdainful, oh dear, Zhang, could you move, blocking the door. Are you trying to get the teacher's attention? You won't even let the teacher off, I exclaimed in surprise. Zhang Xiaoli's face immediately changed. She glared at me and said, anyway, I've already given you a chance. If you don't add me as a friend now, there won't be any more chances. Think it over. Several people nearby were left speechless. I was already used to her explosive actions. I cupped my hands toward the brothers in the back row and said, this opportunity is for you guys. I'm not worthy of it. The elective class is attended by students from 2 classes together. The people sitting behind me happened to be from another class. They'd only heard rumors before, but now they were seeing it with their own eyes. So being handsome isn't all it's cracked up to be. Only someone with a twisted mind could say something so shameless. Who knows what kind of sick fantasies they're having. Their pity made the corner of my mouth twitch upward. This was exactly the reaction I was going for. Zhang Xiaoli wants to be famous, so of course I'm going to help her out. There was a 10-minute break in the middle of the lecture. Just as I was about to head to the restroom, a girl was waiting for me at the classroom door. Hey, could we add each other as friends and get to know each other? The girl was very shy, and the few girls around her were all egging her on. I usually try not to put girls in an awkward position, so I let them down gently. Before I could even say a word today, Zhang Xiaoli popped up out of nowhere. Jiang Yuan, you didn't have to put on a whole show just to make me jealous and get me to add you back. Zhang Xiaoli's daily uniform was a plaid shirt and jeans. She never bothered with sunscreen, which left her looking a bit rough and sun-darkened. As soon as she said that, several girls looked at her in surprise. Who are you? Come on, don't tell me Jiang Yuan has a thing for you. Zhang Xiaoli smiled smugly. Isn't it obvious? I quickly grabbed the classmate who was about to take their phone back. Hey, let me scan your code. Jiang Yuan, I already said I'd give you my WeChat. What's the deal with you adding other people? Zhang Xiaoli was furious. 5. I'm about to throw up. Wouldn't even if you printed your WeChat and plastered it all over school. Do you think you're the school beauty, and every guy should be falling over themselves for you? After successfully adding me as a friend, these girls also defended me, showing their affection for me. Many people gathered at the door to watch the joke. Zhang Xiaoli couldn't argue alone, so she turned her gaze to me. Jiang Yuan, you're really not a man, you don't care at all when they bully me. After saying that, she ran away crying. I put on a wounded, sighing look that made everyone feel incredibly sorry for me. If Zhang Xiaoli can play the victim, I can certainly learn to do the same. Well, I've lived long enough to see a female creep. No way. I need to go tell my boyfriend to wear a mask when he goes out. If she sets her sights on him, won't he just become hers? Which class is she in? Some nosy classmate took a photo of Zhang Xiaoli and posted it on the confession wall again. Her newly updated post also received replies with her photo. The thread starter claims to be the leading lady of the campus, and the added a beautiful friend to make you jealous. Are we living in different worlds? Picture. The picture is from that time, with everyone else blurred out except her. This woke everyone up from Zhang Xiaoli's fabricated dream of being the leading lady. Everyone mocked her as a daydreaming dinosaur girl. Zhang Xiaoli's response remained unchanged, insisting that we don't interact this way privately, that I've never cared about looks, and that what I admire is her noble character. All these roommates have seen it too. Their sympathetic gazes are almost drowning me. The current rumors are somewhat in my favor. What I need to do now is find a cooperative girlfriend to act with me. No one could top the school belle, Lan Xishuan, when it came to getting things done, and as luck would have it, she happened to be my childhood friend. With so many people pursuing her, to avoid any awkwardness, we'd only really chat during our two families' dinner gatherings. We didn't really cross paths otherwise. After all, we'd all grown up. When I asked her to help me pretend to be my girlfriend, she seemed quite surprised. Jiang Yuan, so you're asking me for help too? Huh, sure, but you also have to help me get rid of those annoying suitors. It's a mutual arrangement, and you have to play the part of a good boyfriend on the surface. Lan Xishuan's request wasn't unreasonable, so I agreed. Just walking around campus with her, including going to eat, still put some pressure on me. I was faster than Zhang Xiaoli in posting on the confession wall. Even when she suddenly took my arm, I tensed up completely. Lan Xishuan said with a grin, already nervous. Of course. You have to play the whole act. Everyone's watching. Do you really want rumors spreading that you like that girl in your class? Her words scared me so much that I immediately put my arms around her waist. This time, she got nervous. Ahem, all right, just a rehearsal. Take me back to the dorm now, and come find me after class tomorrow at noon to have lunch together. She suddenly blushed, pushed me away, and then hooked her arm around mine again. The awkwardness of acting with someone familiar made me feel uneasy as well. My voice became hoarse uncontrollably. Okay? No matter what she said, I just kept agreeing and saying, okay. Who would have thought that the next day, our class ran late, and in the end, Lan Xishuan came to pick me up for dinner. With the campus beauty standing at the door, no one in class had any mind left to listen to what the teacher was saying. Finally, the teacher sighed and waved us off. Holy crap, it's actually true. The class monitor and the school beauty queen are really together. I told you Jiang Yuan couldn't possibly like Zhang Xiaoli. She's got no looks and her grades are nothing special. At least Cinderella was pretty when the prince fell for her. Ha ha ha, you actually believe Zhang Xiaoli's nonsense. Her roommate said she claims to have dated a celebrity. Do you think that's even possible? 6. I couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction as I caught a glimpse of Zhang Xiaoli's dark glare from the corner. Without comparison, there's no harm. What does she have to compare to Lan Xishuan? Just as I was about to leave with Lan Xishuan, Zhang Xiaoli rushed over and blocked our path. Many students who were about to leave also stopped to watch the show. Jiang Yuan, did you hire someone to put on a show just to make me come to you? How could a beautiful girl like her ever be interested in you? How much do you pay her a day? You can pay me, and I can act too. Zhang Xiaoli stared at me with wide eyes, looking very confused, and there were even tears in her eyes. I'm not saying no to your idea of dating. It's just that I've been really busy lately and haven't had time to think about it. Then Zhang Xiaoli glared at Lan Xishuan. At your age, can't you follow my example and find a part-time job? Is being short on money a reason to pretend to be someone's girlfriend? Her ability to spread rumors once again shocked me. It also shocked everyone else. Lan Sheshuan narrowed her eyes slightly, then let out a soft laugh. Jiang Yuan and I grew up together since childhood. It's perfectly normal for childhood friends to be close. You can be jealous, but you can't insult people, right, classmate? She glanced at me. I nodded. Due to our years of mutual understanding, I knew she was asking if the woman bothering me was the one in front of us. How can it not be acting? Since you haven't been seen together since the start of the semester, you haven't gone to see him, and Jiang Yuan hasn't come to see you either. He must have paid you. Zhang Xiaoli was absolutely certain. She smiled smugly, as if she had discovered something. She then looked at me tenderly and said, Jiang Yuan, I knew I was the only one in your heart. There's no need for such formality between us. I can forgive you this once. I pulled Lan Sheshuan into my arms and shot a hostile glare. My girlfriend is right here, and you have the nerve to openly hit on me. Did you even bother to ask if we're okay with it? Or do you think you're better than Sheshuan? I gave Lan Sheshuan a pinch on the waist, and she immediately caught on. He punched me right in the chest. Jiang Yuan, I forbid you from talking to any strange girls in the future. Even a fanatical fan isn't as terrifying as her. I smiled wryly and agreed one by one. Our teamwork was flawless. Any man would be jealous. Even when the goddess is jealous, she's still so beautiful. For goodness sake, don't mention Zhang Xiaoli from our class. It's so embarrassing. They're a perfect match, while she just looks like a clown. Exactly. She came in so rude. If it weren't for the school beauty's good temper, I would have slapped her by now. Listening to the crowd's chatter, Zhang Xiaoli somehow found the courage, refusing to back down even when she was flushed with anger. I know I'm special in your eyes. When she said that, many people were about to faint. Yes, especially Shameless. I said it word by word, spoke words that were left unsaid in a past life. Facing Zhang Xiaoli, your politeness is seen as acquiescence. And then she imagines a grand drama. Zhang Xiaoli stood there in a daze, tears welling up in her eyes. I took Lan Sheshuan's hand and was about to go to dinner. I didn't expect this place to be where Zhang Xiaoli works part-time. Luckily, my roommates insisted on coming along today, saying that dating should involve treating someone to a meal. Zhang Xiaoli eagerly approached. You deliberately brought her to this restaurant, knowing I work here. 7. Zhang Xiaoli's confident tone somehow made Lan Sheshuan very uncomfortable. Classmate, where we eat is our freedom. Jiang Yuan doesn't have any private connections with you. Why are you clinging to him like this? Did he offend you? And you're determined to seek revenge. Zhang Xiaoli's smile was broken. What? Are you going to ask me next how much money I want? Don't you realize you're the evil female antagonist in our relationship? Jiang Yuan will see through your true nature sooner or later. The roommate was the first to be overwhelmed by the toxic tea. Are you out of your mind? They're childhood sweethearts, a perfect match from similar backgrounds. Who in their right mind would choose you? Even if they have the patience of a saint, you need to know when to stop. You're always making things difficult for them. Do you think you're some fallen heiress and the whole world revolves around you? I suggested we go eat somewhere else, and everyone agreed. Who would have thought that Zhang Xiaoli would write a post that very day and it would blow up online? Why is the heroine working as a waitress? The young master brought his companion and friends to deliberately cause trouble, just to punish her for not listening. Her story is so well written. I naturally wanted to help her out, so I anonymously submitted the post to the confession wall. Many people online don't know Zhang Xiaoli's true identity, plus she deletes comments, but she's already famous at school. Soon, her account was referenced by many people looking to capitalize on the trend, resulting in videos and illustrated explanations. In less than a day, Zhang Xiaoli had even become famous in other schools. Isn't this a classic dream girl? Lan Sheshuan asked me to wait for her downstairs at the dormitory. Thinking of our agreement, I went without hesitation. Jiang Yuan, I have an idea. Since that girl in your class loves to fantasize, let's make videos and create an account. Once we gain followers, she won't be able to stir up any trouble. I thought it over, and her idea actually seems pretty good. I don't really get this stuff, so I'm just following her lead. Wait, we have to kiss for the video. That completely flustered me. Lan Sheshuan's roommate, who's a professional photographer, edited all our behind-the-scenes footage and even made an account to ship us as a couple. With Zhang Xiaoli's popularity, we caught fire even faster. Wow, This is the real dating show couple I wanted to see, let them debut right now. I'm really curious which celebrity would date someone who claims to have dated a star. Did they really have bad eyesight to fall for her? What a shame for a woman to put on such a show. I was there, guys. It was shocking. The blogger came to wait for her boyfriend after class to go eat, and then this woman blocked them, accusing the blogger of being together with her boyfriend only because she took his money. It was so insulting. A sudden, minor trending topic blew Lan Xiaoshuan's video up, and she started dragging me into her videos all the time. What's more, she really enjoys teasing me, and she never lets up until I'm completely flustered. My roommate couldn't take it anymore. Bro Yuan, are you just not up for it? You don't know how to kiss? Fine, I'll show you. I have no interest in kissing men, so I ran off right away. 8. Many people from my school or nearby schools saw me walking with Lan Xiaoshuan and posted the photos in the comments. It's official. We're truly a couple now. I just felt that Lan Xiaoshuan sacrificed a lot to help me, so this weekend, I specially picked out a gift and invited her to dinner. She likes to keep records, which made me a bit nervous. Thanks, I was just about to speak when she cut me off. Jiang Yuan, you don't need to thank me. We've been together for 2 months, and I don't believe you feel nothing for me. You say we should keep our distance now that we're grown up, but isn't adulthood the very time to talk about matters of the heart? You've always been clever since we were kids, with top grades. It was like we were in 2 different worlds, just watching each other from afar. I worked incredibly hard to get into this school, all to follow in your footsteps. Only someone as dense as you wouldn't realize I have feelings for you. Lan Xiaoshuan cried. What did you say? My mind was overwhelmed by a buzzing noise. I said I like you. My liking for you has been long planned, because you're outstanding and radiant. I've always been captivated by you. My heartbeat accelerated. The surroundings were so quiet that I could only hear my heartbeat and see Lan Xiaoshuan's face. I took a deep breath and let it out. I think, I like you too. With that affirmation, Lan Xiaoxian smiled at me, and I gently wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. Now that we're not pretending to be in a relationship anymore, we actually seem to get along better. We've effectively blocked Zhang Xiaoli's path to becoming an internet celebrity, but she hasn't made any moves. Every day, she's either in class or working a part-time job, acting as if she's turned over a new leaf, as if she'd ever truly settled down. I had to be on guard as expected. After I was late for class that day, Zhang Xiaoli came running towards me. Jiang Yuan, it's my fault. I was wrong. I shouldn't have exposed our relationship and made you feel embarrassed. Can you forgive me? Zhang Xiaoli spread her arms, as if about to embrace me. There were only 1 or 2 people scattered along the corridor. I quickly took a few steps back, stopped when I felt the steps beneath me. Zhang Xiaoli was laughing and running closer, as if she was about to succeed. I quickly sidestepped, watching her fall straight toward the stairwell. I pretended to stumble a few times, looking terrified, and said, Zhang Xiaoli, are you crazy? If you can't get what you want, you'll destroy it. You want to push me to death. My voice was so loud that it caught the attention of the 2 other people in the hallway. Perhaps they only saw a blur as Zhang Xiaoli rushed toward me. She fell on her own. The counselor came to handle the situation quickly and pulled up the surveillance footage right away. The surveillance video showed that after Zhang Xiaoli's hand slapped my shoulder, I dodged in panic, and she ended up throwing herself forward. The ambulance has already taken the person away. The counselor called her and my roommate over to understand what happened. Everyone agreed that Zhang Xiaoli was acting out of a "if I can't have it, I'll destroy it" mentality, trying to harm me but ending up harming herself. After the counselor got in touch with Zhang Xiaoli's parents in the countryside, they arrived in the afternoon. Upon hearing that her nose was broken and the medical bills would amount to tens of thousands, Zhang Xiaoli's parents immediately called the police and went to the school demanding an explanation. After the police investigated the matter, their conclusion was that Zhang Xiaoli herself was solely responsible. Because of this incident, the student counselors were called in for a meeting to instill a proper understanding of relationships among the students. One should never harbor ill intentions towards others. Zhang Xiaoli's parents wouldn't let it go, so the counselor had to call my parents. When my mom arrived, I had her bring a lawyer. Teacher Qi, as a parent, I naturally will cooperate with your work, but isn't my son the victim here, who will take responsibility for his reputation? As soon as my mom finished speaking, Zhang Xiaoli's parents became even angrier. What do you mean your son Is the victim. My daughter is clearly the one who got hurt. My daughter likes your son so much. How dare he refuse to be with her? He should absolutely be responsible for her medical bills, otherwise, this isn't over. 9. I've anticipated everything that's happened in this life, so the situation is completely under my control. The counselors' meeting served as an indirect way to clear my name. The story of how Zhang Xiaoli's twisted mind backfired and she ended up hurting herself instead of me has spread. Mr. and Mrs. Zhang, the police have already spoken with you, and the school isn't lying regarding Zhang Xiaoli's medical expenses. If you truly can't afford them, we teachers will discuss it in our meeting later and try to find a solution for you. Thank you for making the trip, Mrs. Jiang. We really appreciate it. As soon as the counselor finished speaking, Zhang Xiaoli's mother immediately slapped her. Luckily, there were a lot of people around. The lawyer my mom called managed to pull her away, only for Zhang Xiaoli's father to punch him the very next second. They were cursing in thick local dialect, enough to make anyone roll their eyes. Great, the police showed up again, this time to deal with their assault. The counselor probably won't pursue the matter due to school issues, but the lawyer my mom called will definitely handle it by the book and file a lawsuit. You can't afford to mess with lawyers while waiting for the medical scan results at the hospital with my mom. I came across Zhang Xiaoli's live stream. She was raising medical funds on Shuidi Cho and claimed that my family was bullying her illiterate parents, threatening to send them to jail. With her silver tongue that could twist black into white, her live stream was pulling in a huge audience. I casually showed the lawyer the live stream. Uncle, what should we do now? When my mom gets angry, she pulls out the big guns, her money, and since this top-tier lawyer is a family friend, he immediately started gathering evidence on the spot, ready to sue Zhang Xiaoli along with the others. I was afraid Lan Xishuan would get involved, so I didn't let her come to see me, but who knew she still found me through my mom, Jiang Yuan. If she can live stream, so can we. Let's ask Uncle about the precautions. We also need justice. No matter what happens, I'll stand by your side. My mom teased us with a smile. All right, all right. Xiao Xian is the one who can comfort you effectively. I, as a mom, have become a third wheel. You two go have dinner on your own tonight. Call me immediately if anything happens. After seeing my mom off, I called a lawyer for consultation, and then I started a live stream with Lan Xishuan. Our side emphasizes storytelling based on evidence and logic, which is naturally more credible than Zhang Xiaoli's fabricated stories. Some people sympathize with Zhang Xiaoli's difficult family situation, thinking she might have had no other choice. In my past life, it was my repeated forbearance that ultimately led to my untimely death. While Zhang Xiaoli flaunted her sports car around town, the wretched often have their own despicable traits. If she hadn't disturbed our lives, as her classmates, we would have gladly started a crowdfunding campaign to cover her medical bills if she'd ever fallen short due to an accident. Lan Xishuan's articulation is clearer than mine. And soon I became a devoted wife-watcher, just passing her water or staring at her in a daze. I occasionally reply to the comments. 10. Our live stream has gained more popularity because our lawyer has sent the legal notice, and we've updated it on our social media accounts. The truth fears no scrutiny. It was Zhang Xiaoli who was left isolated and desperate. To keep her parents out of jail, she called and begged me to meet her at the hospital. After placing the voice recorder on Lan Xishuan, I took her along with me. Zhang Xiaoli seemed quite agitated upon seeing her. Are you here to gloat? If it weren't for you, Jiang Yuan would definitely be with me. Even without her, I wouldn't have looked twice at you. Feelings have to be mutual. Love doesn't have to be perfectly equal, but there has to be some spark, right? Why on earth would I like you? Is it because you've harassed me repeatedly and disrupted our lives, or because of those ridiculous stories you keep making up? My tone couldn't have been more disgusted. Zhang Xiaoli was getting anxious. No, Jiang Yuan. Many people like the way we get along. Can't you see that, classmate? This is all in your own head. You've constructed a world of your own to beautify life. It's fine to pursue fantasies, as long as it doesn't affect others. The conversation was very unpleasant, but it perfectly revealed Zhang Xiaoli's obsession and madness. The recording was just to prevent her from making any other moves. Zhang Xiaoli kicked us out of the ward in a rage, and of course, we were happy to leave early. Little did we expect that the accident would come even sooner. Zhang Xiaoli forced her parents to take out loans. and even pushed her mother down the stairs to her death, all to get insurance money for plastic surgery to look like Lan Szechuan. Her uncle sued her, yet Zhang Xiaoli came to the school to find me, carrying a huge bag of money. By the roadside at the school gate, Zhang Xiaoli ran over to me, her face still wrapped in bandages. I didn't answer her call, and just as I was about to go to dinner with Lan Szechuan, she ran into us. Jiang Yuan, isn't it her face you like? I have noble qualities. Once I get plastic surgery to look like her, we can be together. Now, nothing can stop us. Zhang Xiaoli looked at me with tears in her eyes, a dazed smile on her face. I shook my head with a cold laugh. Have you gotten lost in your own performance? Don't think I don't know what you're up to. You saw your writing could attract followers, so you crafted a persona to become an influencer. But things didn't go as planned, did they? Do you really think hitching your wagon to mine is the secret to going viral? Zhang Xiaoli's veil of shame seemed to have just been lifted, and she looked around helplessly, but no one around was willing to pay attention to her. She shook her head desperately. It's not like this. You were the one who liked me first. You were the one who always caught my attention. You're the one who ruined my life. My mother even died because of you. What do you want to do to be with me properly? Her eyes blazing with fury. I was afraid she might hurt Lan Szechuan, so I pulled her back a bit. You're selfish and only think about yourself. Your mom hurt her back working for others to pay your tuition, yet you showed no remorse, harmed your classmates, and even killed your own mother. My sister was so foolish to marry your dad and give birth to such a monster like you. When Zhang Xiaoli's uncle arrived with the police, she panicked and tried to run away, running a red light. The car sped by, and Zhang Xiaoli was hit, flying several meters away. She scattered the money her mother had paid for her life beside her body. The police were here immediately, sealing off the scene. I watched as Zhang Xiaoli lay on the ground in a twisted posture, her hands still reaching out toward the scattered money. The sunlight fell on her, and I seemed to see tears on her cheeks drop into the pool of blood. The greatest culprit in Zhang Xiaoli's tragedy was likely her own inner demons. The demons born from within her mind ultimately turned her into a true monster. Her death became a trending topic online. Many parents have become more concerned about their children's mental health, and schools are following suit. Our school, for instance, has added a weekly psychology class and encourages students who are struggling to actively seek counseling from our psychological advisors. We will do everything in our power to prevent such a tragedy. Time heals all wounds. After graduation, Lan Szechuan entered the entertainment industry and became a rising star. And I, too, have been shining brightly in my own field. Another 3 years had passed. She made our relationship public, and her fans all wished her happiness and joy every day, and she replied to the fan whose comment had gotten the most attention, "Of course I'm happy. He was my childhood crush, and I'm the one who finally won him over." Story 2, Chapter 1. My twin sister and I were simultaneously sent to marry the human leader and the zombie king as part of an alliance. My sister chose the powerful and wealthy zombie king, while I married the resource-scarce human leader. But later, my sister, who was bound to the fertility system, was discarded like worthless trash by the zombie king and became a plaything for the zombies. I gained the favor of the human leader and gave birth to a super-powered baby. After rescuing my sister from a horde of zombies with my son, she stabbed me dozens of times out of jealousy. In this second life, my sister rushed to choose the handsome human leader first. Wonderful, that cruel husband and ungrateful son are all yours now. I want to marry Finian. Emerging from the days of excruciating pain, the first words I heard were my sister's declaration. Watching her accept the marriage proposal potion from the human leader, I realized my sister had also been reborn. In the third year of the apocalypse, humans and zombies divided territories, each ruling their own, because my sister and I carried the rare bloodline capable of birthing superpowered offspring. Our parents offered us to both factions' leaders. Hearing my sister's choice, I feigned surprise and asked her, "I've heard Finian is resource scarce and has hordes of lovers. Aren't you worried, sister?" Sister should worry about herself first. Those zombies are utterly filthy, hideous, and reek of decay, utterly merciless toward women. Who knows how many monsters you'll end up serving. With that, she rolled her eyes, snatched the marriage contract to sign, and I promptly signed after her. "Fiora, what's wrong with you? Your father and I worked so hard to secure this opportunity, and you're throwing it away like this." Father glared at my sister with exasperation. still trying to snatch my marriage certificate, but I dodged him. Mother screamed, "Fiora, how could you let your wretched sister have her way? She doesn't deserve these gold and silver treasures." Before I could speak, my sister spoke up, "Mom and Dad, I heard the zombie king Quentin is cold and heartless. He might casually give sister to the lower-ranking zombies to share. Who knows how much she'd enjoy that." She clung to our parents' arms, whining. They sighed, unable to resist her, and simply redirected their anger toward me. "Did you hear that? Your sister is being so considerate of you. Marrying you off is already doing you a favor. Once you're there, put your shameless tricks to good use. Bring back more supplies for your sister, or I'll break your legs." Still fuming, they raised a hand to hit me. My sister pretended to intervene, and in the end, the slap never landed on my face. The zombie guard blocked my parents' hands. They always bullied the weak and feared the strong, and now they didn't dare to move at all. Looking at my sister's cowardly and foolish behavior, I couldn't help but find it amusing. I wondered how long she could keep up this act. In the previous life, my sister almost immediately chose the zombie king when she saw the jewelry, crystals, and various delicacies he sent as betrothal gifts, while I was forced to marry the human leader. But despite being bound to the fertility system, she was discarded like worthless trash by the zombie king and even became a plaything for zombies, suffering endless humiliation. Yet I won the favor of the human leader, becoming second only to one in above 10,000, even giving birth to a superpowered child, revered as the light of humanity. Upon learning of my sister's plight, I braved countless hardships with my son to rescue her, only for her to snarl with a twisted expression, "Why do you get to live so much better than me?" Then she stabbed me dozens of times in succession, each strike filled with hatred, each strike piercing my heart with agony. Reborn into a new life, she rushed to marry the human leader, thinking she could become the cherished first lady and bear superpowered babies to be revered by all. Little did she know she'd be toyed to death by her tyrannical husband and his horde of lovers. I sneered, watching how she'd break the deadlock, whether she could rise to become the second most powerful like I did, through her own strength. Chapter 2. With no room left to alter the marriage contract, the clan leader sent us off to wed. As he looked at the swarm of zombies, he handed me an object and told me to bind it with my blood. Upon doing so, a fertility system manifested in my mind. My sister scoffed disdainfully. In our past life, the clan leader took pity on her and gave her the system, but it was utterly useless and only plunged her into misery. Naturally, she wouldn't believe that I could fare better than her. I arrived at the zombie territory. Inside the massive palace, it was gloomy and oppressive, with occasional glimpses of skeletal remains, impossible to tell if they were human or animal. I lowered my head, refusing to dwell on it, and kept walking. The bridal chamber wasn't as eerie and terrifying as the outside, perhaps because of the table piled high with food. The apocalypse had struck suddenly, and in days where survival was uncertain, no one cared about indulging their appetite. Even getting enough to eat was a struggle. In my past life, I married Finian and spent every day fighting against him and his legion of lovers, especially that white moonlight Cressida. With his favor, she framed me for abandoning her in a horde of zombies, leading that sadist to nearly beat me to death before locking me in a cell to starve for days. Staring at the food before me, I couldn't hold back anymore. I grabbed it and stuffed it into my mouth, counting my past life. It had been over a decade since I'd had a full meal. Just as I was devouring the food, Quentin arrived. The moment I saw him, I froze. No wonder my sister refused to marry him no matter what. His face could be described as ferocious, with protruding fangs obscuring his entire visage, his skin a ghastly blue-black, 100 times uglier than an ordinary zombie, yet he spoke with remarkable politeness. "I know you humans fear me. If you're truly unwilling, I can prepare a house for you. We'll act as if this marriage never happened, and I'll provide for you for the rest of your life." I actually think he's quite decent, certainly better than Finian at least. When you marry a chicken, you follow the chicken. I have no objections. It's okay, I don't mind. You're just different from others, and being afraid doesn't count. His gaze was complicated as he gently leaned in. I couldn't help but feel emotional. My wedding night with Finian hadn't been this gentle and harmonious. I nearly died that night, and I wonder if my pampered younger sister could survive it. I originally thought the wedding day would be the best, since gathering so much food wasn't easy, but unexpectedly, every meal maintained that standard. When I asked in confusion, he just casually said, "It's fine, you're my wife. It's only right you enjoy some privileges." After saying that, they went even further by stuffing me with all sorts of beautiful clothes and delicious food, even going so far as to kidnap a human. Specifically to cook for me. 3 days later, when we returned for the traditional post-wedding visit, I saw my younger sister crying on our parents' shoulders as soon as we entered. Her body was covered in bruises, and her pretty face was swollen and red, making her speech somewhat slurred. As expected, Finian was still the same scumbag, incompetent in bed and fond of abuse. In my past life, I appeared to live gloriously, but if I hadn't been strong myself, I wouldn't have survived until this post-wedding visit. But now, as I touched the jade bracelet on my wrist, I couldn't hide the happiness in my eyes. Seeing this, my sister was driven mad with jealousy. "Alina, why do you have so many nice things? Did you steal them? I knew you were this kind of bitch." Chapter 3. She kept cursing while eating the good stuff I brought back, and instead of stopping her, my parents joined in scolding me too. "You didn't even think to bring these good things back earlier. Can't you see how much your sister has suffered? It's all because of you. You owe her." With that, they came at me to fight. I sneered and dodged my parents' lunge. In my past life, I don't know what she did to get locked in that room, having supplies withheld by those zombies below. Of course she couldn't get anything decent. Suddenly remembering something, she laughed. "I get it now, sis. You really aren't picky, are you? Actually consummating with that monster? If it were me, I'd rather die than submit. I'd give him a good scolding too. But then again, you've never known anything better." How embarrassing. She recounted the things she did in her past life as if they were imaginary. I just smiled without responding, casually mentioning the good items I obtained from the zombie territory. Sure enough, without me needing to do anything, she flew into a jealous rage again, even cursing me recklessly, saying zombies had no reproductive ability, so I could never bear a child and would eventually be discarded by Quentin as a mere plaything. As soon as she finished speaking, Finian walked in from outside. The moment he saw me, his eyes flashed with admiration. I had been eating well under Quentin's care, my figure plump and radiant, my complexion glowing. In a base where most people were still emaciated, my 7-point beauty became a perfect 10. He approached with a grin, reaching out to touch me. "Who is this? I don't think I've seen them before." My younger sister let out a scream and was about to hit me. "Finian, you actually have feelings for her. What does she have that I don't?" Finian frowned and skillfully delivered a slap. "This is no place for you to speak." I glanced at her, never expecting that even beaten to this state, she could still feel jealous over this man. "This is my wife. What's the matter?" Chapter 4. Quentin appeared at the doorway wearing a mask, grabbed Finian's hand and tossed it aside. With his great physique, he'd be an extremely charming guy, if you didn't look at his face. Finian glared at him. "And who are you? How dare you speak to me like this in my own territory?" He let out a cold laugh. "We zombies don't have to follow human rules." Finian roared in anger. "How dare a mere zombie act so insolently in my domain? Just zombies, so there are still humans who don't know the name Quentin." Finian's expression changed, clearly realizing who he was, and immediately shut his mouth. He turned his head, grabbed his sister's hair, and said with a dark expression, "You've got some nerve staying out this long." After saying that, he left with his men. Our parents chased after them worriedly, but I just smiled, judging by his expression. "Little sister won't escape this beating." Quentin accompanied me to buy some more things at the base before heading back. After we got home, he said, If you don't like me, you don't have to force yourself." "Why would you say that?" I was somewhat surprised, but quickly understood. "Is it because of Finian?" "Don't mind him. I don't like him at all. I think you're great. I like you." I spoke with such sincerity and earnestness that he had no room for doubt. Moved, he slowly removed his mask. For some reason, I kept feeling he was becoming more and more human-like. Even his fangs had shrunk considerably. When I asked him about it, he just looked utterly confused. Ever since becoming a zombie, he'd lost the habit of looking in mirrors, so of course he wouldn't know about his own changes. After studying it for a long time, we still couldn't figure out why this was happening, so we decided to leave it be for now. After all, there didn't seem to be any negative effects, but I have to admit, this was a good thing for me. At least when we kiss, I no longer have to worry about him biting off my tongue. I always thought he was a good person, after another intimate moment, he let his guard down for the first time and shared many things with me. That's when I realized even zombies have their own troubles. Even the highest-ranking zombies could one day completely lose their sanity and revert to being the lowest-level zombies again. So now everyone's afraid to level up, worried they might fall too soon. Everyone misses their human lives and wishes to become human again. But how easy is that? It's even less likely than remaining a rational zombie forever. It was only then that I learned that becoming a zombie would mean losing the ability to reproduce. He married me only because he had heard about our clan's abilities and wanted to seek a glimmer of possibility. I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. While he was good to me, I also tried my best to be good to him. We lived our days peacefully and contentedly, like an ordinary and happy human couple. For some reason, I faintly felt my body growing heavier, and as I became more abnormal, he grew increasingly handsome, his behavior more and more like that of a human. Chapter 5. After a while, during a meal, I suddenly felt dizzy and nauseous. Vomiting everything I had just eaten, Quentin stood up worriedly, but I stopped him. This state felt familiar to me, and I had a guess in my heart, but he was still uneasy and found a human doctor for me. After the examination, my guess was indeed confirmed. I'm pregnant. I announced the news with joy. When Quentin found out, he was so happy he didn't know what to do, hugging and kissing me repeatedly, but not daring to do anything else for fear of hurting me. I remembered my good pregnancy system and quickly clicked in to check. Sure enough, I could get pregnant thanks to it. Talents, skills, handsome looks. There were so many things to exchange in the system, but I didn't care about those. I exchanged health and happiness for my child. Later, I found that real-world items could be exchanged for points. For my child, I ran out of money, so I asked Quentin for things and then spent them in the system. Quentin was always willing to oblige, and even when I didn't ask, he would anxiously circle around me like a puppy until I said what delicious food I wanted. Only then did I truly feel like the woman who had become the zombie king's consort. All the resources on this continent were at my disposal. Whatever I desired, I obtained. Compared to my previous life of painstaking effort just to secure a single meal, this was infinitely better. All sorts of zombie subordinates I had never seen before now appeared before me to congratulate me. Such peaceful days didn't last long before sudden news arrived from home. In their attempt to plead for mercy and protect my younger sister, my parents angered Finian. He ordered their legs broken, confiscated all our family's properties, and expelled them from the base. I rushed back in haste, only to find our home completely emptied. In the already dilapidated house, my parents clung to my sister, weeping. The moment they saw me, they lunged forward, not only demanding I take them into the zombie territory to provide for them, but also insisting I bring my sister along. Mom wiped her tears and said, "Finian is simply inhuman. 3 meals a day, yet he only gives your sister one, and even that spoiled expired food, and despite this, he still won't leave her alone, beating her every single day." She cried rivers of tears, but her sister showed no gratitude. "Mom, how many times do I have to tell you? It wasn't Finian's fault. It was all that bitch Cressida's doing." She spoke through gritted teeth. Indeed, she too fell victim to Cressida. Cressida and Finian grew up together, and she even suffered severe injuries to save him, which left her unable to bear children and thus ineligible to marry him as his legitimate wife. Yet, she remained Finian's most cherished lover, spared from his cruel methods. I clashed with her for a long time. Neither of us could gain the upper hand. She couldn't push me to utter despair, just as I couldn't outmaneuver her. I still remember when she staged a fall to frame me, and Finian nearly beat me into a miscarriage. Then there was that time we went out together, and she suddenly vanished. After searching everywhere, I assumed she had returned to the base first. Such incidents weren't uncommon, so I went back. To my surprise, she reappeared the next day, disheveled, sobbing that I had abandoned her outside to die. But I saw clearly, the marks on her were self-inflicted, just another scheme to frame me. That time, Finian banished me from the base, forcing me to survive alone for half a month. All because he demanded I apologize to Cressida. So what if she acts so spoiled and arrogant? Finian doesn't completely obey her. Nor is he unaware that her jealous scheming has killed many people. He simply doesn't care. After I deliberately showed compromise and non-resistance, used my wisdom to advise him, and even endured disgust to declare my heart belonged entirely to him, didn't Finian ultimately prioritize my interests and slap her for the first time? This man simply adores delicate, innocent flowers. Someone as willful and prideful as my younger sister would only trigger his desire to dominate and abuse, I snorted coldly and agreed to take my parents away, but gave them a choice. I'd arrange their retirement, but would never see them again, and could never take my sister with us. They tore off their hypocritical masks and lunged at me to strike. You ungrateful wretch, we raised you for nothing, you're not even worth the dirt beneath your sister's feet. Trash, if we didn't need you to support your sister, we'd have strangled you long ago, you damned mistake. The zombie guards behind me intercepted them. Staring at their twisted faces, my heart turned to ice. I'd given them chances, but their stubborn delusions left me no choice. I had to let them go. From then on, whether they lived or died was no concern of mine. My sister, seeing our parents' state, rushed to tug at them. I won't go, I won't. It's your fault I couldn't keep Finian's heart. You useless failures. Why don't you just die? My parents froze in shock. Unwilling to watch their farce any longer, I turned and walked away. In the days that followed, Finian still disliked his sister, treating her with nothing but beatings and curses. Yet despite this, she soon discovered she was pregnant. From that day on, the entire base buzzed with talk. She was carrying a superpowered baby. Chapter 6. It's obvious who spread those rumors without even thinking. At that moment, I was drinking the miscarriage-preventing medicine sent by Quentin's zombies. She saw it and rolled her eyes in disdain. What's the point of preventing miscarriage? No matter what, it'll only give birth to a monster. Ugh, just thinking about a child between a human and a zombie is disgusting. Quentin sneered. Say that again. I leisurely took another sip of the miscarriage-preventing medicine, afraid something might happen to me. He came to pick me up after handling all his affairs. He no longer needed to wear a mask now. Apart from his slightly bluish-black complexion, his appearance was no different from a human's. In fact, this skin tone made his deep-set eyes appear even more cold and stern, exuding an exotic mystique that made him far more attractive than the superficially handsome but spineless Finian. My sister's expression changed, a flash of jealousy crossing her eyes before she quickly sneered. Where did you find some random man to show off? What? Realized Quentin's useless now. When he returns, I'll tell him you've cuckolded him. Just wait to be left rotting in the wilderness. The person across frowned, suppressing their anger only after seeing my expression, and said coldly, I am Quentin. She exclaimed in shock. Impossible, impossible, I've seen you before. How could you look like this? I smiled and said, why can't he look like this? This is how he looks. Little sister, you're the one who's blind and foolish. You can't even recognize what's truly good. The person you gave up on will never come back. Take a good look at what you've lost. She scrutinized me and Quentin from head to toe, her face growing darker, but she couldn't say a word. Just as I said, she was the one who gave all this up. In the end, she just said coldly, so what? I'll let you gloat for a few more years. When my precious son grows up, he'll definitely wipe you all out. By then, I'll make sure you're kneeling and begging me to spare you. I sneered, truly hoping she'd remain this confident after giving birth. Chapter 7. Quentin and I returned to the zombie territory. As days passed, my pregnancy became more noticeable, my belly gradually swelling. He stopped clinging to me constantly, instead carefully touching my belly every night and whispering to it. I found it amusing, but except at night, he was always busy. I hadn't noticed before, but now I actually felt somewhat lonely. Quentin sensed my mood and asked what was wrong. I knew he couldn't fully understand my emotions yet, so I just told him I was bored and wanted something to do. After my repeated pleading, he finally agreed to take me along when gathering resources before the next zombie gathering, though not without countless warnings and reminders. Once again returning to the battlefield, I feel my blood boiling with excitement, eager to showcase my skills. In my previous life, I always had to scavenge for resources just to barely fill my stomach. To please Finian, I even gave him the majority of what I found, all while pretending to be completely dependent on him. Otherwise, I'd be tortured to death by his lovers. Later, he finally allowed me to take charge of tactical planning for the team, but people's hearts are fickle. Those humans reluctantly obeyed me due to my status, yet distrusted me because of factional struggles. Even though I consistently achieved maximum gains with minimal casualties, some still deemed me unfit for the role. In this life, I don't face such troubles. the zombies flawlessly execute my commands. Perhaps I was always meant to be a zombie. But in my past life, Fiora stole the opportunity that rightfully belonged to me. Fortunately, in this life, I've reclaimed what was mine. Quentin has become more human-like, not just in appearance but emotionally as well. When faced with certain situations, he too begins to hesitate, to feel reluctant, yet no one tells him whether it's right or wrong. Only in the dead of night does he caress my swollen belly and whisper his questions. Am I still a monster? My heart aches for his fragility, comforting him. No, you're just sick, and you're getting better. Don't worry, he sighed in relief, smiled, and spoke again. It's okay, even if I'm a monster, you won't leave me, right? I nodded in agreement, failing to notice the fleeting profound darkness in his eyes. Only seeing his satisfaction and relaxation, I couldn't help but open the fertility system again, searching for medicine to help restore his human body, but the fertility system only contained pregnancy aids and maternal infant products. Disappointed, I closed the system and fell asleep with worries. Chapter 8, Several months later, my delivery day finally arrived. Waves of abdominal pain tormented me unbearably, making me clutch the sheets and cry loudly. Quentin's hands trembled as he tried to comfort me, but I could no longer process his words. Is giving birth supposed to be this painful? In my past life, it seemed to have gone so smoothly. I began to worry if there was something wrong with the baby, but that shouldn't be the case. I clearly exchanged for so much of the child's health level, enough to ensure he would absolutely be a healthy baby. Quentin finally realized this couldn't continue. He abruptly stood up. 1 hour, no, half an hour. Get me someone who knows how to deliver a baby. He rarely spoke like this anymore. The trembling zombie subordinates left, and 20 minutes later, they actually brought back a doctor. I wailed in agony as Quentin held my hand, constantly comforting me. The doctor kept encouraging me to push. After all, this was zombie territory, and conditions were crude. Fortunately, I wasn't experiencing a difficult birth. The baby was in the correct position, but the child was simply too large, making the delivery arduous. The doctor smiled and congratulated me, handing the baby over for me to hold. 2 boys, twins are quite rare these days. I smiled and nodded as Quentin wiped my sweat, only glancing occasionally at the babies. I gave him a playful scolding, while the doctor laughed heartily. Sigh. I always thought zombies were heartless, but your partner treats you so well. I just came from Finian's place. His wife was also giving birth today. The baby was about the same size as yours, but it was breech and a difficult delivery. Oh dear, Finian absolutely refused a C-section, insisting that naturally delivered babies are smarter. That poor girl suffered terribly. The baby was born, but she almost didn't make it. He must have been talking about Fiora. A wave of fear washed over me. Thankfully I have the good fortune system, otherwise I might have suffered this calamity too. Quentin had someone escort the doctor out and gave him generous compensation. The doctor left grinning from ear to ear. When Quentin returned, he picked up the crying child with a pensive expression. I asked him curiously what he was thinking about. We can't go on like this. Both you and the child need more resources. And people. What if you end up having a difficult labor like that woman? He showed a hint of fear in his expression, and I couldn't help but marvel at how he was becoming more and more like a real human being. In the past, when had I ever seen him afraid of anything? Don't think about those things now. Let's focus on choosing the child's name. That's more important. I tried to comfort him by diverting his attention, and fortunately, he followed my lead and shifted his thoughts. Let's name them Blaze and Garrick. I agreed with a smile. Meanwhile, our relocation to the human base was finalized. When the children grew a bit older, he disguised us and took me to Finian's territory. Chapter 9. I often saw Fiora at the base. Her son was unusually large, just as the rumors said, born with superpowers. Despite his young age, he'd already become a temperamental and volatile child. Blaze and Garrick occasionally ran into him, but never came out worse for it. Whenever he suffered humiliation, he would take it out on Fiora. Even though she had borne him a son, she couldn't escape the fate of being abused. Finian's little mistresses still looked down on her, using the same old tricks to frame her, yet she always ended up the loser. On top of that, her son would either beat or curse her, making all sorts of demands. If she failed to meet his needs, he would scream and lash out with fists and kicks. Yet every day she still put on a happy face, dreaming that when her son grew up, he would help her eliminate all her enemies and give her a good life. And her greatest enemy, of course, was me. Meanwhile, I was enjoying an ordinary, pre-apocalypse-like life at the base. My two sons excel at everything they learn, never giving me extra trouble. They dote on me just like their father. Whenever Quentin brings home something nice, they insist on bringing back something even better the next day. At night, they even worry about my fear of darkness. Without fail, one of them would get up to accompany me whenever I needed to use the bathroom at night, leaving me both touched and amused. A few years later, as the children grew more sensible, I became pregnant again, but to my shock, just as I was about to give birth, Finian barged into our home with his men. He sneered as he drew his sword and pointed it at me. Alina, I never expected you to hide zombies in the human base for so long, you traitor to humanity. Lying on the bed drenched in cold sweat, my water had broken, but I couldn't show weakness. Quentin had gone to buy food and hadn't returned yet. I had to protect my two children and the baby in my womb. I looked behind her and saw Fiora staring at me with a smug expression. I knew it. She must have been behind this. How did you find out? I asked, feigning calmness. Of course, through my brilliant wisdom. His pretentious act made me sick. Fiora said impatiently, shut up and kill her already. Finian backhanded her across the face and said arrogantly, how I act is none of your business. She clenched her teeth and looked at her son, who sneered, Mom, stop making a scene. Dad should slap you a couple more times to teach you a lesson. My two children shielded me behind them, their faces filled with determination as they spoke. If you want to harm our mother, you'll have to kill us first. Tears streaming down my face, I tried to get up but was pushed back down. Let me see who dares to lay a finger on my wife and children today. When Quentin appeared at the door, I breathed a sigh of relief, but Finian's expression changed as he slapped his sister again. Bitch, didn't you say he wouldn't be back today? Fiora covered her face in tears but couldn't utter a word of explanation. Finian left with his men, and I successfully gave birth to my third son. Quentin sighed, and thinking he was upset, he spoke instead. It's not safe here anymore. Let's go back. Of course, I agreed. After we returned, the atmosphere between humans and zombies grew increasingly tense. Humans launched several extermination campaigns against the zombies, while the zombies initiated multiple zombie horde attacks. Chapter 10. The children are growing up, each becoming more handsome and courageous. I often hear about what Fiora's son has done again, and I recall in my previous life how he was almost maniacally determined to eliminate all zombies. At the time, I naturally agreed, but now, I'm starting to worry that he might actually do it. Before I could figure out a solution, Quentin suddenly approached me with a grave expression. I've discovered something. I am the one who triggered this apocalypse. The person responsible for the birth of the zombies. I was stunned by the sudden news and instinctively let out a laugh. Why are you suddenly joking like this? He shook his head. No, I'm not joking, Lulu. Thanks to you and the children, I've finally regained all my memories. I am a sinner of all humanity. He lowered his head in anguish and confessed everything. Only then did I learn that he was originally a genius researcher. During an experiment, he and his colleagues discovered a previously unknown active cell. Out of curiosity, they began in-depth research, and it was precisely this behavior that ultimately led to disaster. He discovered the danger of these cells and tried to dissuade his colleague, but the colleague remained stubborn and even deceived him into becoming a test subject. Later, the situation spiraled out of control. He turned into a zombie, but due to the numerous experiments conducted on him, he gained immense power. Meanwhile, that colleague died on the very first day of the zombie outbreak. Perhaps it was karma. As a result, Quentin became the zombie king early in the apocalypse. However, this also caused his memories to be suppressed by his power, which distorted his appearance into something grotesque. It wasn't until I married him and bore his children that his memories gradually returned. With the birth of our kids, I couldn't help but think of my past life. Until the moment I died, he remained that repulsive. My heart ached as I held him tightly. It's all right. We just need to correct our mistakes. Do you know how to reverse the zombification? He pondered for a moment, but the children jumped in first. Dad, we know we can help you. The children laughed brightly, and I remembered that I later exchanged their intelligence for the highest level. Smiling with relief, let the children help you end this mistake together. He was finally free from pain and smiled as if a weight had been lifted. You're right. Thank you, Lulu. We locked eyes and laughed together. Perhaps it was easier to find inspiration in such an atmosphere. As I suddenly remembered my son from my past life who planned to trap and burn the zombies, I carefully recalled the details. Now that there's a possibility to reverse zombification, I can't let them kill more innocent people. Chapter 11. I had people closely monitor all the easily accessible spots, so Fiora's son couldn't find an opportunity to strike this time. Instead of reflecting on his own decisions, he blamed Fiora for unwilling to help him, causing him to always get caught. Finian, being somewhat decent to his only son, started to resent Fiora's uselessness after hearing such complaints repeatedly. Upon hearing this, I just let out a cold laugh. Most likely, he resented Fiora for losing her looks and failing to bear him a second son, but what completely shocked me was that he actually thought I'd still be willing to marry him under these circumstances. He sent Fiora to persuade me to remarry, magnanimously claiming he didn't mind me having 3 children. Quentin immediately wanted to kick her out, but I stopped him. I looked at Fiora, her body covered in layers of old and new scars, her face aged. Though I'm the elder sister, she looked over a decade older than me. Sitting across from me, she glared with jealousy. Alina, apart from being lucky in life, what other skills do you have? I shouldn't have let you marry into this family. I should have thrown you into a horde of zombies. After all, you love acting shamelessly in front of them. I smiled and said, that's right. I am just lucky. What about it? Jealous? Hate me? It's useless. What's mine will always be mine, and you can never take it away. After I finished speaking, she suddenly screamed. I grew tired of it and let the zombies take her away, but I never expected she'd dare to steal classified information. She took all the research findings. I sent zombies after her, but in the end, we only retrieved what she had stolen. The zombie said he witnessed Fiora's son killing her with supernatural powers. It seemed even he didn't expect it. After holding Fiora and crying for a while, he just buried her hastily. After a long silence, I could only sigh. Perhaps it's for the best that our entanglement across 2 lifetimes ends here. Chapter 12. In the 26th year of the apocalypse, Quentin and the children finally succeeded in developing the reversal serum. Every zombie could become human again, and the world was finally free from the scourge of the undead, returning to order once more. Those human bases that had proclaimed themselves kings and tyrants were uprooted one by one, Finian's included. He and his young lover were beaten to death by the enraged people they had oppressed for so long, while his superpowered son was obliterated by the rebuilt national weapons. No one knows how the apocalypse began, but everyone will know who ended it. They erected monuments for Quentin and me. We became beloved leader-like figures. The children grew day by day, the eldest steady, the second lively, and the third cheerful, while the boss was handling various affairs. Quentin and I left the place we had lived for over 20 years to travel and enjoy the scenery in the rebuilt areas. Occasionally, people would recognize us and smile while giving us some complimentary gifts. Leaning against his shoulder, I looked at the beautiful world of green mountains and clear waters, and at the people who, despite enduring hardships, had ultimately returned to happiness. I couldn't help but smile. He asked me what I was smiling about. I shook my head, keeping the thought to myself. It's wonderful. Given a second chance, I've finally found my own true happiness and have also brought happiness to many others. My past with Fiora no longer troubles me. Now I have a loving husband and an outstanding son. She also paid for her mistakes with her life. Those who caused me pain in my previous life have all received their due retribution. I am already very content. Extra. The original world. The 30th year of the apocalypse, the world has been completely destroyed and is no longer suitable for human habitation. However, the number of surviving humans is now extremely small. For some reason, zombies gradually grow stronger, only to revert to their most primitive state one day, losing all chance of further evolution. The renowned zombie king also fell 2 years ago, though before death, he seemed to regain consciousness and let out a sigh. The world fell silent as plants and animals reclaimed the earth, preying on both zombies and humans, until the last human turned into a zombie. Until the last zombie lost its mind, humanity has vanished from the world, and perhaps one day, even the last traces of our existence will fade into nothingness. Story 2. After the end of the world came, I protected my younger sister and saved her from a certain death, and stopped her from eloping with a scumbag. Unexpectedly, she held a grudge against me for this. When the zombies surrounded the base, she opened the base gate. As a result, everyone in the base was buried with her so-called love in this new life. Seeing my younger sister begging me pitifully, I smiled at her and said, Harrison is a good man worthy of your lifetime commitment. Sister won't stop you too. It's better to choose a day than to bump into one. Then you can leave the base now. 1. I was reborn on the day of my 27th birthday. My younger sister, Eliza, pulled at my sleeve, pouted her lips, and acted like a child throwing a tantrum. Sis, just let me go with Harrison. She didn't remember at all that today was my hard-won half-day off. Nor did she remember that I had specifically set aside this half-day to get along with her well. After all, we hadn't seen each other for almost a month. Seeing that I didn't respond for a long time, Eliza swayed her body from side to side and shouted loudly, Sis, I'm not a child anymore. You can't restrict my freedom like you used to. Besides, Harrison will protect me well. The familiar room, the familiar scene, and the familiar conversation. I was stunned for a moment, and the memories in my mind became vivid. In my previous life, Eliza also asked me on this day to leave the base with Harrison, but at that time, I thought it was too dangerous outside with zombies running amok. I firmly and righteously refused Eliza's request because of the existence of the special protection regulations. Eliza couldn't leave the base without my permission, so she had to stay in the base and watched as Harrison, whom she liked, left the base with another girl. I didn't know what Harrison said to her before he left, but since then, Eliza seemed to have held a grudge against me. She not only moved out of the house where we lived together, she also never called me sister again when she saw me. I thought this was just a little girl's temper tantrum. After all, since we were young, whenever Eliza didn't get what she wanted from me, she would lose her temper at me, but I didn't expect that because of Harrison. Eliza completely stopped seeing me as her sister. She even held a grudge against everyone in the whole base. When another wave of zombie attacks broke out, she opened the defensive gate of the base. The zombies poured into the base, and the base was completely. When I recalled the scene I saw in the laboratory at the very center of the base, my heart felt as if it was being clenched by a big hand, and I couldn't catch my breath. I'm sorry to those who admired and trusted me. I'm sorry for their trust in me. If it weren't for my obstruction, Eliza wouldn't have hated me, and such a thing wouldn't have happened. I clenched my hands into fists, and my nails almost pierced the palms of my hands. Just then, a hand reached out from the side, opened my palm, and comforted me silently. I turned my head to look and saw that it was my boyfriend and partner, Gavin. The moment my eyes met his, I knew he was reborn too. Gavin squeezed my hand, giving me great reassurance. I quickly adjusted my emotions and turned to look at Eliza. Do you really like that guy Harrison? Eliza's eyes lit up, and she answered eagerly, of course. I raised a formulaic smile that couldn't be faulted. Then you can go with him with confidence. It's the path you've chosen yourself, and sister won't interfere with you. I also wanted to see how bright the so-called right path you chose in your previous life really was, too. After getting my approval, Eliza happily ran out of the room to find her good brother. She completely forgot her sister's birthday, but I didn't care anymore. I turned around and hugged Gavin tightly, taking a deep breath of his scent. It's so great, Gavin. I thought I would never see you again. In the previous life, when the zombie tide came, I was on the outermost layer of the experimental area, and he was still doing experiments in the innermost layer. My biggest regret before I died was that I didn't have time to develop the vaccine. My second biggest regret was that I didn't get to see Gavin for the last time, but fortunately, we're both back, Margot. Fortunately, Gavin's voice trembled slightly. I keenly noticed it, and my heart was filled with waves of distress. I didn't know what he had gone through after I died. After a brief hug, we started sharing information with each other. According to Gavin, a large part of our previous experiments were correct. We were not far from the day when we could truly develop the vaccine. Thinking that I could return to the home where I had lived for 20 years and that I could save my infected fellow citizens, the smile on my face couldn't fade away. No one doesn't want to return to the world before the end of the world, and no one is willing to kill their former fellow citizens. Margot, we can do it. Gavin held my hand, his eyes determined. We can bring back the spark of the past and return to our hometown. 3. On the day Eliza left the base, I still took the time to see her off for the last time. She was holding Harrison's hand and looking at him with a happy expression. When she saw me coming, Eliza tilted her head slightly, as if showing off her love to me. Sister, you're here. Harrison and I are about to set off. I glanced at Harrison beside Eliza. When he saw it was me, a haughty expression appeared on his face. He put one hand on his waist, with a bit of the air of, I'm the best in the world. It was such an unremarkable person who made Eliza in the previous life never forget him. I averted my gaze, afraid that if I looked at him one more time, I wouldn't be able to resist. Taking action, Harrison was arrogant but had no real ability. When he was in the base, he was unwilling because he didn't receive attention, but in the apocalyptic world, ability and status are directly proportional. No matter where Harrison went, he wouldn't get the treatment he wanted. Are you sure you want to leave? I looked at Eliza, my voice cold. Eliza, you have to understand that once you walk out of this gate, you're no longer my sister, and you won't be protected because of that. You have to do everything by yourself. I said this not out of consideration for the so-called sisterly affection, but to tell Eliza that no matter what happened to her in the future, I wouldn't care. But with Eliza's simple mind, she couldn't understand this. When she heard what I said, her face showed dissatisfaction. Sis, what are you talking about? I can also make a name for myself, just wait and see. After saying this, Eliza didn't even want to greet me. She got into the car with Harrison and left the city. I watched her figure disappear from my sight and finally let out a sigh of relief. This way, the tragic scene of the base in the previous life shouldn't happen again, for, at the monthly regular meeting, I proposed to take corresponding preventive measures to deal with the zombie tide that would come in 2 months, but I was questioned by some people in the base. The zombie tide has always occurred at an uncertain time. How can Dr. Margot be sure that the next one will be in 2 months? My sworn enemy, Finn, narrowed his eyes and looked at me. I was taken aback for a moment and then realized that I had been in such a hurry that I had blurted out the time. I couldn't very well say that I was reborn, could I? But when I thought of the tragic situation of the base lacking supplies in the previous life, I had to make them agree to take precautions in advance. My thoughts raced through my mind quickly. Just as I was about to speak, Gavin, who was sitting beside me, put his hand on mine and patted it a few times. I looked up at him, and he gave me a reassuring look. Because the research results have just come out, and I haven't had time to report them yet, based on a large amount of data and simulations, we finally made the relevant model early this morning. Gavin stood up, motioned to project the data on the large screen, and started to explain. After his explanation, the final conclusion was drawn. So, everyone, according to our calculations, the next zombie tide will come in 2 months. There was a burst of discussion below, and finally Finn asked a question. Professor, what is the accuracy rate of this model of yours? Gavin smiled and nodded. 99.999%. The accuracy rate close to 100% made the people below burst into an uproar immediately. Gavin narrowed his long and narrow eyes, but the smile in his eyes was not kind. Everyone, please vote quickly to make a decision. The safety of the base may be in our hands. In the end, it passed with a unanimous vote. The base entered a state of preparedness for war. After the meeting, I pulled Gavin aside as expected. I saw the dark circles under his eyes. You stayed up all night behind my back just to make this model. I touched Gavin's eyes with distress. Margot, it's okay, I'm not tired. Gavin pulled my hand and kissed it. Suddenly, I thought of something, pulled my hand back, and looked at Gavin seriously. I remember that before I died in the previous life, the work of that modeling team had just started. So how did you manage to successfully build the model so quickly? I stared closely at Gavin and didn't miss the flash of pain in his eyes. His hands trembled as he stroked my face, and he lowered his voice, as if he was afraid of breaking me. Margot, it's all in the past. I placed my hand on his, pursed my lips slightly. In the end, I just hugged Gavin and didn't ask anything else. 5. The preparation work of the base for the war was carried out in an orderly manner. I asked people to pay special attention to the prevention and control system of the base gate. It just so happened that there was a problem with this place when the zombie tide came in the previous life. That's why Eliza was able to open the base gate, and that's how the tragic situation later came about. But it's different now. While the research was being carried out in the base, I didn't forget to pay attention to what was going on with Eliza. After all, I was quite curious to see if the path she chose was easy to walk on. I installed a program in Eliza's portable device, which would send me real-time Videos. Eliza followed Harrison and a few other people and walked towards a private armed base named Dragon in the east. The first half of the journey was quite smooth. The few of them were still chatting and laughing, looking forward to what they would be like when they reached the new base. Eliza also took the opportunity to express her dissatisfaction with me to them. My sister said she was doing it for my own good, but she restricts me every day and doesn't let me out of the base. Come to think of it, I haven't seen what the outside looks like for a long time. That so-called special protection list is supposed to protect me, but it's more like restricting me. When Eliza talked about me, she habitually frowned, as if I, as her sister, had done something really sorry to her. Maybe she looks down on me. She rarely comes back, even if we happen to meet when she has time. She won't talk to me much. Harrison disdainfully said to her, those people in the base are like that, they look down on us because they enjoy privileges. They really think they're something special. Aren't they just a little smarter than us? They don't have any real ability, but I heard that the Dragon base is different from there. In Dragon, we will definitely be able to realize our ambitions. Harrison's lackey quickly chimed in. Harrison is right. Harrison was pleased and hugged Eliza affectionately. Baby, don't worry. You will definitely be happy with me. Eliza shyly punched Harrison and buried her face in his chest, complaining, you're so annoying. There are so many people here. I skipped this part expressionlessly. I didn't want to waste time watching the performance of these two lovers. Soon, the really interesting thing happened. When the group was almost at the new base, a group of people robbed them of their supplies and the car. Harrison usually boasted about how great he was, but at the critical moment, he only knew how to hide at the back with Eliza. Eliza couldn't provide any martial help either. She could only shrink fearfully into Harrison's arms. After this battle, everyone in the group, except Harrison and Eliza, looked rather disheveled. They dodged the zombies everywhere and destructively arrived at Dragon. Although they didn't say it out loud, they couldn't help but curse Harrison a few times in their hearts. Standing at the gate of the base, they shed excited tears, but they didn't expect that they would have to go through a series of searches. Before entering the base, all valuable items had to be handed over. Eliza was also groped a lot during this process. When had she ever suffered such an injustice? She immediately reached out her hand and wanted to slap the searcher. But this was a private base. There was no order, fairness, or morality here, and there was no special protection list to escort her anymore. The searcher unceremoniously reached out his hand and grabbed Eliza's wrist. He slapped Eliza in the face with a slap. What are you doing? Eliza's eyes immediately turned red on the spot, and she covered her face in disbelief. The searcher sneered. Little girl, do you think this is the eastern base where you used to stay? Here, strength is king. Those without strength have to wait to be bullied. I'm just teaching you this in advance. Eliza caught her breath and looked at Harrison for help. Harrison was busy flattering the big brother of the people in Dragon, and didn't care about Eliza at all, so Eliza had to grit her teeth and endure all this. She also had an opinion about Harrison. She was roughly groped on her chest by the searcher. She hugged Harrison and entered Dragon with a forced smile on her face, still feeling wronged. Did she think that was all? I turned off the monitor and stretched. No, this is just the beginning. Eliza, 6, relying on the memories of my previous life. Gavin and I corrected many mistakes in the team. Under our overtime research, we achieved a breakthrough in the first stage in just half a month. Looking at the data gradually developing in a good direction, everyone present had tears in their eyes. From the moment we stepped into the laboratory, our goals were the same. After encouraging each other, we started to devote ourselves to a new round of research. In the apocalyptic world, time was more precious than anything. Gavin and I kept working continuously in the laboratory. When the first phase vaccine and the first phase purifying agent were developed, there were still 7 days before the outbreak of the zombie tide. Only then did Gavin and I have the mood and time to go home and rest. After taking a break, I took out my communication device and then saw countless communication requests and messages sent to me by Eliza. However, because I was busy with the research before, I had set the do not disturb mode. Eliza's messages changed from begging and repenting at the beginning to blaming and complaining later. I sorted out the messages and then learned what had happened over there. The Dragon base was a privately established base, so naturally there were no official people to maintain order. It was chaotic and disorderly there, and the evils of human nature could be seen everywhere. This was one of the reasons why I stopped Eliza in my previous life. but Eliza was brainwashed by Harrison and thought that he could definitely protect her well. She followed him without asking much. Well, the retribution came, didn't it? Harrison couldn't get along well in Dragon and encountered a lot of obstacles. He wanted to leave Dragon, but without supplies, he couldn't move an inch. Just then, the boss of Dragon showed his interest in Eliza. Just by giving away an insignificant woman, he could change the current situation. Harrison was immediately overjoyed. Without saying a word, he took the initiative to send Eliza to the boss's bed. This was exactly why Eliza tried to contact me in the first place. Sis, Harrison wants me to sleep with the boss of the base. I love him so much. How could he do this? Sis, I was wrong. Please save me. If I don't go, Harrison will beat me and force me to go. I know I was wrong. I should have listened to you. I scrolled through the messages, quietly looking at Eliza's increasingly crazy text messages. Margot, I'm your own sister. Why won't you save me? If you hadn't stopped me in the first place, how could I have ended up in this situation? Margot, have you forgotten what Mom said to you before she died? I'm your sister and you have to protect me. I've known about Eliza's selfish nature for a long time, since we were young. She only considered her own interests. Even when the interests of her closest relatives conflicted with hers, she would not hesitate to choose to harm others in order to protect her own interests. No matter how many good things others did for her, she would only remember the bad things you did to her. In my previous life, I wanted to protect her and stopped her from leaving with Harrison, and she held a grudge against me. In this life, I let her go with Harrison as she wished, and now she regrets it and blames me for not reminding her. No matter what I do, she will be dissatisfied. I sneered and turned off my phone. The last message from Eliza flashed through my mind. How dare Eliza mention my mom? She didn't even think about how my mom died. A corner of the quilt was lifted. Gavin quickly climbed onto the bed and hugged me in his arms. Gentle kisses landed on my hair. I felt a little ticklish and leaned against Gavin with a smile. What's wrong? Gavin didn't answer, but just expressed his longing for me with his actions. Since we were reborn, Gavin has become more proactive than in his previous life. This made me wonder what exactly happened after I died in my previous life. It must have been something that made a person who was used to keeping his emotions in check release all his love for me. A trace of heartache welled up in my heart, and I let Gavin do his little actions. Gavin, do you think we can see the world return to the way it was before the apocalypse? I held his hand and turned to look at him. Yes, we will. Gavin kissed my forehead, his tone determined. It was as if he had really seen it. 7. As the time for the zombie tide to break out approached, the security level in the base became higher and higher. Although the news hadn't been released yet, everyone had noticed that something was wrong. All the schedules for leaving the city were cancelled, and the supplies were all ready. 3 days before the zombie tide broke out, a large number of zombies had gathered 100 kilometers away from the base. It was estimated that they would reach the outskirts of the base in 3 days. I stood in front of the detector and nervously grabbed Gavin's hand. Don't worry, Margot. Heaven gave us a chance to come back, just so that we can change the tragedy of our previous life. The warmth of Gavin's body kept passing through our clasped hands to me. The heart in my chest that was beating rapidly due to nervousness also gradually calmed down. 2 days before the countdown ended, the zombies were approaching. The base issued an announcement, and everyone entered a state of preparedness for war. The last day of the countdown, all members were in place. At the same time as in the previous life, the zombie tide reached the outskirts of the base. Gavin, I, and the core members of the research institute were placed in the safest place in the base. We nervously looked at the hundreds of monitors in front of us. There were a lot of zombies, but fortunately, we had prepared a lot of things in advance. And Gavin had also developed a new type of reagent against zombies according to the memories of his previous life. No zombies rushed into the base, there was no large-scale infection, and the tragic situation of the previous life didn't reappear. Those people who had always stood on the front line to protect us and our homeland charged forward as they had in all previous battles. The battle had just begun, but victory had already arrived. After confirming the safety, Gavin and I rushed straight to the place where the wounded were being treated. Although the defense battle just now was really excellent, there were still people who were injured and infected. I casually stopped a nurse and asked about the current situation. After looking at Gavin, we changed into protective suits and went to the centralized treatment room for the infected. Most of the people here were frontline soldiers infected with the zombie virus. They were covered in blood, but they hadn't been cleaned up. Maybe they thought it was unnecessary to clean up. Some of them were still young. There was a calmness towards death on their still immature faces. If there was no way to stop the process of infection, they would eventually turn into zombies and then be used for research by the Research Institute. The sound of the mechanical door opening made them look towards us. I looked around and spoke solemnly. Everyone, we are the leaders of the Central Research Laboratory. The Research Institute developed the first-generation purifying agent some time ago. If you are willing, I can arrange for you to be injected with it immediately. The originally dim eyes around us lit up one by one, but currently, the purifying agent hasn't passed the first phase human observation stage. We don't know if it will be effective for you. It's possible that even after the injection, it still won't be able to stop you from mutating. Gavin took over my words, his eyes full of apology. The people around looked at each other. Finally, a man in his 30s, probably their captain, said to us, "Then just inject it. If it's successful, we'll have saved our lives. If it fails, we'll just provide a sample for the research laboratory." They smiled magnanimously, their eyes full of trust in us. Gavin and I saluted them and slowly backed out. "Arrange for the injection," I said to the people waiting outside for us. I hoped that heaven would be merciful and give them a chance at a new life. 8. The effect of the purifying agent exceeded our expectations. 12 hours had passed, and all the original reactions of the infected people had disappeared. The blood samples also showed that there was no problem. This meant that in the future, when facing the zombie virus, we wouldn't have to watch helplessly as our companions' lives disappeared before our eyes. For the first time, the higher-ups approved a 2-day vacation for us. I was finally able to go back and take a rest with Gavin. Before we could say a few words, I received a communication call from Eliza. This time, I answered it. "Sis, there are a lot of zombies outside the base. I don't know where Harrison has run off to, and I'm so scared." As soon as the call connected, I heard Eliza's panicked sobbing voice. "The Dragon base is just using people's lives for defense. Aren't you in a high position in the base? Can you send someone to save us?" Eliza would only come to me at times like this. "Eliza," I said calmly, my voice cold. This attitude made Eliza, who was just crying on the other end of the phone, stop sobbing for a few seconds. She seemed not to understand why I would treat her in this way. "When you and Harrison left the base, I told you that from the moment you left the base, you were no longer my sister. Your name had already been crossed off the special protection list long ago. I won't waste the base's resources because of you." After a moment of silence, Eliza shouted at me, "Margot, aren't you my sister? Now that your sister's life is in danger, shouldn't you, as the sister, stand up and protect your sister?" I sighed. "Eliza, even if we do have a blood relationship, I'm not obliged to protect you all the time. You're an adult and should be responsible for your own choices." Eliza knew this simple truth very well, but she still didn't give up and thought that I would definitely help her. After all, that's what I had always done before, since the apocalypse began. Because of the last text message my mother sent me before she died, I had always arranged everything for Eliza. When she was in the base, she could enjoy a higher-than-average treatment without having to do any work. Even if she was wronged in the base sometimes, she would immediately receive an apology. After enjoying it for so long, she thought that all of this was supposed to be hers, but in the apocalyptic world, everything came at a price. I used to pay the price for her, now I don't want to anymore. Eliza can only pay for her own choices. "Margot, I'm your sister, the only relative you have in this world. You can't just abandon me like this." Eliza let out a near-crazy roar. I couldn't help but hold the phone a little farther away. "Do you still remember what Mom said to you? You're supposed to protect me." Eliza mentioned our mother who died at the beginning of the apocalypse again. My eyes darkened immediately, and I sneered. "Eliza, how dare you mention Mom? Have you forgotten who killed her?" Eliza's shouting suddenly stopped. She spoke tremblingly, as if she had finally remembered the sin she had committed. "No, it wasn't me. I didn't mean to." "No, how could you know?" I sneered. "Eliza, people do things and heaven watches. There's no wall that doesn't let the wind through. When my mom had the accident, the city's surveillance cameras hadn't completely broken down. Eliza's action of pushing my mom in front of her to block the knife was just caught on a surveillance camera. When the people in the base showed me the surveillance video, I was shaking all over and could barely stand. It was Gavin, who was standing next to me, who held me up. But even though I was so angry at that time, I still chose not to tell Eliza the truth. After all, as Eliza said, she was the only relative I had in the apocalyptic world, but after what happened in my previous life, I was completely disappointed in her sisterly affection. Did she think of me when she opened the base gate in her previous life, when she did irrational things and blamed me for a man? Did she think about whether I was alive or dead? Since Eliza didn't care about me, why should I care about her? No, no, Margot, sis, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please save me. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I didn't want to listen to Eliza anymore, so I simply hung up the phone and set it to do not disturb. But what I wouldn't tell her was that even if I wasn't willing to go and save her, the base would still send people out to clear the zombies. On the one hand, it was to protect our fellow citizens. After all, the population had decreased sharply in the early days of the apocalypse, and we should protect as many people as possible. On the other hand, it was to prepare for the future reconstruction. During this period, several bases across the country shared their experimental results. With the help of all parties, the originally expected research and development time was greatly shortened when the first-generation vaccine and the second-generation purifying agent were tested to be okay, and after 2 rounds of vaccine inoculation, humans would have to prepare to open the base gate and return to their homeland. I could tell Eliza to make her less scared, but I suddenly felt a little sleepy, so I decided not to say anything. 9. Everything was developing in a good direction. Good news kept coming out about the research and development of the vaccine and the purifying agent. The dispatched personnel of the base also had the support to go to farther places to carry out tasks. With the help of the memories of his previous life, Gavin also provided a lot of suggestions for the development of the base. During this period, the base also began to incorporate and rectify the private armed forces in various places. Some of the incorporation work went smoothly, but some encountered a little obstruction. Before incorporating the Dragon base, I received an encrypted communication from the front line. Hello, Dr. Margot, I'm sorry to disturb you, we just received a text message that said if we could get you to come over, that person would open the gate of the Dragon base and let us in. I was in the mood to cook for Gavin and was holding the phone with my head while listening to the person on the other end. Captain Eric, how could you believe such a strange text message? This doesn't seem like something you would do. Captain Eric was taken aback, coughed a few times, and continued. The main reason is that that person sent us a photo of her, and she looks a bit like your sister. Hearing this, I put down the spatula and opened the photo that had just been sent over to take a look. Although there were a few more scars on her face and her eyes had become dull and crazy, I still recognized the woman in the photo. It was Eliza, no doubt. Captain Eric, I've already registered my sister's death record in the system a long time ago. The person in this photo does look a bit like her, but she's not my sister. You can follow the procedure, I said, after exchanging a few more polite words with Captain Eric. I hung up the phone. I turned around and saw that Gavin was leaning against the door with his arms crossed, and I didn't know how long he had been looking at me. I washed my hands and walked towards him. You heard all of it, don't you think I'm heartless? Gavin pulled me into his arms, and his forehead touched mine. How could I think that, in her previous life, she caused you and most of the people in the base to? She really doesn't deserve to live. What you did is already very kind. If it were me, well, you don't want to know, Gavin said. A trace of darkness flashed in Gavin's eyes, and then he lowered his head and kissed me, making me unable to see anything. 10. With the situation improving, the base began to repatriate people in batches to all parts of the country. After all these years of hardship, it was finally coming to an end. Gavin and I went to the top of the tallest building in the base, which we hadn't been to for a long time, and watched the people below excitedly packing their things. We also knew that there were already signs of life in more distant places. When it was time for Gavin and me to be repatriated, it had been exactly 1 year since we were reborn. At this time last year, I hadn't expected that we would be able to return to the place we had voluntarily left so soon. Sitting in the fully armed car on the way back, Gavin and I envisioned our future life while looking at the long-missed scenery outside the window. Who is it? Don't move. The moving car suddenly stopped. Gavin and I followed the sound and looked over. It turned out that a woman covered in dirt and looking disheveled had blocked the path of the motorcade. Part of the motorcade we were in was made up of the core members of the research institute, and the other part were their family members. The level of alert was naturally very high. At this moment, more than 10 guns were directly pointed at the woman blocking the way. The woman seemed to have lost her mind and couldn't understand the guards' scolding at all. She crawled around on the ground in a panic and kept mumbling 2 words. I squinted my eyes and vaguely made out that it should be, "Sister." My heart skipped a beat. It was too late when Gavin saw clearly and wanted to block my view. I smiled indifferently at him, rolled down the window and said to the guard, "She's probably just a madwoman. It's nothing serious." The guard nodded and waved his hand, and those weapons were put away. The last bit of disturbance in my heart also dissipated. 11. I had a dream. In the dream, I went back to the day when the base was invaded by zombies. Eliza, like a fool, opened the gate of the base. Zombies flooded into the base like a torrent. I went from feeling guilty and angry at the beginning when I learned that it was Eliza who opened the gate, to finally easily choosing to accept the reality. The alarm sounds rang layer by layer, one after another. Finally, they were all mixed together, noisy and distressing. It was like a death notice issued to all of us. The most important area in the inner circle was controlled by the program, and a series of solid protective barriers rose up. The zombies were doomed to cause no damage to that area, and I was at the very edge of the experimental area. The safety factor here was no different from that of the residential area outside, but fortunately, he was still inside. If he was there, even if I died, the experiment could still go on. I withdrew my gaze from the core area and walked towards the destination, in my heart against the flow of people. When the passing experimenter saw it was me, he grabbed my sleeve and told me to hide quickly. "Dr. Margot, hide quickly. If something happens to you, the loss to the base will be huge." I pulled my hand back and shrugged calmly. "It's no use. You're not unaware of how sensitive those zombies are to living people." Perhaps this was retribution. I turned and entered a laboratory, planning to find something to end my own life before the zombies did. I didn't want to be infected and mutated otherwise. Wouldn't he be extremely sad when he saw it? Fortunately, there were archived samples here. I took out the reagent from the freezer, removed the cap of the syringe and stabbed it straight into my body. Although it was just a first-generation experimental product, the effect was still remarkable. After only more than 10 minutes passed, I felt as if my whole body was frozen and I couldn't move. My thoughts also became heavy, and every breath I exhaled carried a chill. My vision was getting blurrier and blurrier. Well, I thought finally. It seemed that he wouldn't feel much better either. My consciousness returned to clarity. I felt the hands around my waist and groaned twice in dissatisfaction. The person behind me didn't want to comply with my wishes and hugged me even tighter. "What's wrong?" I reached back and touched the head behind me. "Did you have a nightmare?" Gavin didn't answer me and buried his head even deeper. I had the answer in my heart and took the initiative to turn around and get closer. Although Gavin had always been reluctant to tell me what happened after I died, I could more or less guess it. I knew the fear in his heart. There were too many regrets left in the previous life. Fortunately, everything was perfect now. I could also wake up on such a morning and comfortably nestle in his arms. The road ahead was long. We could walk together from now on. Extra story. I happened to be doing an experiment when the zombies invaded the base. I didn't know what had happened until I came out of the laboratory. The central area was also completely blocked. Everyone couldn't get out, and the zombies couldn't get in either. I stood there in a daze on the spot. Margot was still outside. I went crazy looking for the person in charge and begged him to open the door so that I could go out and find Margot. But he just looked at me sadly. We both knew this was impossible. Finally, he sighed and said to me, "Gavin, I know you're sad, but I don't think Margot would want the progress of the experiment to be delayed because of your leaving." He patted me on the shoulder. "Do you still remember what Margot said was her biggest wish?" I remembered. Of course I remembered. I stood up stiffly, returned to where I should be, and did what I should do. At the same time, I prayed in my heart. It was 7 days later when the zombies left and the core area was reopened. It was in a mess outside. Blood flowed like a river. I saw a lot of bodies wearing white coats along the way. I found the person I had been longing for in that laboratory. She wasn't attacked by the zombies. She was closing her eyes quietly and leaning against the laboratory bench. It was as if she was just asleep. I gently picked her up. "Margot, I'm here to take you home." "I'm sorry. It's my fault. I'm late." Margot didn't smile and comfort me as usual, or give me a hug. Her hand hung down feebly, and her body was so cold that frost formed on the surface of her skin. The familiar room, the familiar scene, the familiar conversation. I just think she was just asleep. I handled the subsequent things calmly. I searched through the whole base and finally found Eliza, who was still alive. How ridiculous. She was alive, but my Margot was dead. Eliza didn't end up well. This was what she deserved, and I, with Margot's determination, returned to the laboratory and desperately studied the corresponding things. With the joint efforts of countless people, the apocalypse ended, and because of overwork. I also closed my eyes one day. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the day of Margot's 27th birthday. The moment I saw her, I knew my Margot was back. Story 2, I am an 8-tailed purple fox, and my husband is also an 8-tailed purple fox, yet we gave birth to a 6-tailed blue fox. He was furious, suspecting that my 8-tailed fox bloodline was impure. He insisted on taking the newborn fox cub and me to the bloodline pool, a special place in the Fox clan for testing bloodlines. The incident caused an uproar throughout the entire Fox clan. The final result was that the fox cub was his biological child, while my bloodline remained pure. Surprisingly, upon seeing the results, he suddenly changed from his previous anger and asked me to take the fox cub back to the manor first. His reason was that he and the elder of the bloodline pool, his father, Elder June, had important matters to discuss. Feeling puzzled, I left with the fox cub afterward. But I left behind the shadow flow stone my father had given me. It was during this stay that I learned his secret. Corbin is not an 8-tailed purple fox. Meanwhile, news that my sister had born an 8-tailed purple fox to the husband of the 7-tailed red fox spread instantly throughout the entire Fox clan. After snapping out of my thoughts about Corbin, I originally intended to go find my father, but I was stopped by Corbin, who returned to the manor in a rage, and he directly locked both me and the fox cub in the dungeon. He knew I had the royal decree to contact my father, the king. He directly used forbidden magic to set up a barrier, cutting off my connection to my father the king and the queen mother. Callista, aren't you an 8-tailed fox? Why did you only give birth to a 6-tailed one, while your sister had an 8-tailed one? It's your fault. Not only are you useless, but you also stole forbidden techniques. So what if I learned them? The useless one is you. It's you. Corbin was driven mad by the word useless, and tortured me until I had only one breath left. Later, they killed the fox cub right in front of me, causing my already weakened self to be unable to bear the shock and die from sheer rage. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of the husband selection. Corbin immediately opposed my father's proposal for him to marry me, choosing my sister instead of me. I instantly realized that he had also been reborn, but this time, I want to see how many tails Corbin, a mere 3-tailed green fox, can grow without my help. Corbin, have you really thought this through? In my days, my father's icy, furious voice pierced straight into my mind. Memories from my past life flashed before my eyes one by one. I suddenly snapped back to reality, raising my hand to lightly touch my forehead, only to realize it was already covered in cold sweat. Wiping away the cold sweat, I looked at the familiar grand hall before me, unable to suppress the excitement in my heart. Had I been reborn? Corbin, you are the second 8-tailed purple fox among the younger generation of our Fox clan. After Callista uniting with me, Callista is the most likely way for our clan to produce a 9-tailed fox. What are you doing now, Your Majesty? I have no interest in Princess Callista. My heart has always belonged to the eldest princess. I beg Your Majesty to grant me permission to be with Princess Eloan. A familiar yet resolute voice echoed through the grand hall. Following the sound, my gaze met Corbin's fleeting look of disdain and resentment as he knelt in the center of the hall. Recalling his words just now, I sneered inwardly. Sure enough, he had also been reborn. The tragic scenes from my past life flashed through my mind, and I closed my eyes in pain. Since he's so eager, I'll grant him his wish. Father, since he's so enamored with my sister, let's grant them their wish. As for giving birth to the 9-tails bloodline, we've waited 10,000 years already. What's the rush now? I opened my eyes and spoke in a calm tone. Very well, Father will listen to you. The Fox King frowned, about to refuse, but after a moment's thought, he agreed. Eloan, what do you think? Are you willing? The Fox King looked at Eloan and asked. This child is willing. Father, what if your husband isn't as good as you imagine? Are you sure you won't regret it? Sister, I suddenly turned my gaze to Eloan kneeling beside Corbin and asked in a serious tone. I will never regret it. Eloan met my eyes with unwavering determination. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Fine, let her experience for herself whether it's boundless riches or an abyss of despair. Callista, how about choosing this Lennon then? He's not too bad either, the king's doting voice inquired. I glanced at Lennon before looking away, turning to hold the Fox King's arm as I spoke. Father, let's stop here for today. Your daughter is still young and doesn't want to marry yet. I want to spend more time with you and mother. Very well. Very well, we'll do as Callista says. My Callista deserves only the very best when she marries, although Lennon is good too. It's fine if we don't choose him. The Fox King pondered for a moment and quickly came to a realization. Callista was the most outstanding and beloved fox cub under his care. How could he have considered choosing a seven-tailed fox as her mate? He must have been confused. All right, let's end today's mate selection here. Everyone may return now. After speaking, the Fox King left the grand hall, leaving only me, Corbin, and Eloan behind in the momentarily silent chamber. Having nothing to say, I was about to leave the hall when Corbin suddenly called out to me, his voice brimming with smug triumph. Your Highness Callista, you must attend the wedding in 7 days. This humble subject dearly wishes to receive your blessing. Before I could respond, Eloan immediately interjected, yes, little sister, I'm also looking forward to receiving your blessings. Got it. Is there anything else? I said indifferently. Corbin was disappointed because I didn't show the level of disappointment he had anticipated. I sneered inwardly. What a fool. Did he really think I liked him in my past life? Ridiculous. Corbin wanted to say more, but I didn't want to listen anymore and turned to leave the hall. Seeing this, Corbin's face darkened with anger, and he also turned to leave without regard for Eloan still standing there. Eloan watched Corbin's departing figure, gnashing her teeth in hatred. Callista. It was always Callista, since childhood. No matter what it was, she had always been better and more dazzling than her. She refused to accept defeat. This time, she was determined to give birth to the nine-tailed fox before that wretched girl Callista, no matter the cost. The 7th day after the husband selection was Corbin and Eloan's wedding, and during these 7 days, I had combed through all the ancient texts in our clan. Finally, I found useful information in an ancient tome. Ancient texts mention that not far behind the Fox King's palace lies a sacred mountain. This sacred mountain is the greatest secret of each Fox King's reign, for the existence and location of this sacred mountain are known and accessible only to the direct lineage of the Fox King. Thus, this was also the reason why my father, the king, no longer allowed me to choose a husband during the spouse selection ceremony. First, it doesn't match, and second, it's the nine-tailed white fox from the Johua cave of the Divine Mountain. Legend has it that the Divine Mountain of the Fox clan has existed for tens of thousands of years, or even longer, meaning the mountain predates the Fox clan itself. The Divine Mountain is rich in spiritual energy, with magical herbs covering its slopes, making it a treasure mountain. This is why the Fox clan built the Fox King's palace not far from the Divine Mountain. At the heart of the Divine Mountain lies a cave abode with the most concentrated spiritual energy, named the Nine Splendors Cave. Within the cave dwelled a powerful nine-tailed white fox, though the area around the cavern was protected by a formidable barrier, preventing anyone from approaching. I figured since I wanted to bear a nine-tailed fox, why not directly find one to mate with instead of wasting time selecting a husband and gambling on probabilities. Coincidentally, the Fox King thought the same, so father and daughter reached an agreement instantly. He directly decided to let me enter the sacred mountain with the Fox clan king's decree to search for the nine-tailed elder. After discussing with my father, I decided to enter the sacred mountain after Eloan's wedding to find the Johua cave. The day after the wedding ended, I packed my things and was about to leave the palace for the sacred mountain. Suddenly, I saw Corbin leading Eloan to stand right in front of me. I had no choice but to stop and glare at them coldly. What business do you have stopping me? What kind of talk is this? Sister, you got married yesterday, and though I attended, you were busy yesterday. Sister, it seems I haven't yet congratulated you on your joyous marriage. My sister spoke softly while leaning into Corbin's embrace, her eyes looking at me triumphantly, full of provocation. Oh, then I wish my sister and her royal consort a swift conception of nine-tailed lineage for our Fox clan, to strengthen our people. At least you know your place. After I finished speaking, I didn't bother with whatever Eloan replied, just gave Corbin a meaningful glance before quickly striding past the two of them. Corbin felt his heart tighten under my gaze, yet maintained a composed expression, then turned around and spoke coldly and disdainfully to my retreating figure. Callista, your sister, and I will surely produce the most noble fox cub in the clan, while you, never in this lifetime. Oh, I lazily replied with a single word. Who knows where Corbin got his confidence from? In her past life, she went through so much just to give birth to a nine-tailed bloodline. She even asked the Queen Mother for secret techniques to awaken the nine-tailed bloodline. After expending most of her spiritual energy, she thought that even if she couldn't get 9 tails, she should at least get 8. The result was only a single 6-tailed blue fox cub, yet I never doubted the purity of his lineage. He, on the other hand, had the audacity to suspect both me and the fox cub. First, fox clans are divided into 9 ranks, from highest to lowest, 9 tails to 1 tail, with colors being white for 9 tails, purple for 8 tails, crimson for 7 tails, and blue for 6 tails, orange for 5 tails, gray for 4 tails, green for 3 tails, yellow for 2 tails, and pink for 1 tail. A natural 3-tailed fox who only advanced to 8 tails by relying on forbidden dark arts to evade heavenly lightning, still complaining that a natural 6-tailed fox cub's rank is too low, saying my bloodline is impure. Ridiculous. Corbin's face turned black with anger. Callista, that bitch. He'd like to see how many tails her fox can grow in this lifetime without him. Corbin, after I left, I activated my spiritual power and set off. A quarter of an hour later, I arrived at the foot of the Divine Mountain. Gazing at the Divine Mountain shrouded in white mist like a fairyland, I suddenly felt as if something was calling to me. Puzzled, I took a step forward, just about to enter the Divine Mountain when an unexpected change occurred. My body was enveloped by a sudden burst of white light. Just as I was about to speak, I fell unconscious the next second, and my body vanished from the spot. When I woke up, I found myself lying on a smooth stone bed covered with soft white fur. I was also covered with some unknown animal's fur, pure white and very soft. Startled, I quickly sat up and looked around through the white gauze curtains. To my astonishment, this cave dwelling seems to be the Jihua cave described in ancient texts. My luck is just too unbelievable. I hadn't even started searching, and here I am inside at the moment I opened my eyes. As I pondered, I prepared to get off the stone bed to see if the 9-tailed fox elder might be in the cave, but just as I lifted the gauze curtain and my left foot touched the soft floor mat, a deep, magnetic voice sounded right by my right ear. You're awake. Startled by the voice, I jerked my left foot back and abruptly released the gauze curtain I was holding. My head instinctively turned to the right. There I saw a strikingly handsome man dressed in white robes, his long silver hair cascading freely. A fiery red teardrop-shaped mark adorned the man's forehead, lending his celestial beauty a touch of demonic charm. He was currently looking at me with a smile on his face. I was momentarily stunned, but quickly regained my composure. It's not like I'm not a beauty myself. Ezra's smile grew even more pronounced as he observed my frustrated expression. A pleasant male voice rang out. Little fox, is this Fox Clan King's token yours? What's your name? My name is Callista, the legitimate princess of the Fox Clan. The king's token was given to me by my father. I replied politely. Callista, have you come of age? How many tails were you born with? Ezra asked me again, this time with more amusement in his voice. I've come of age, just turned 1,000 this year, with 8 tails. I continued answering softly and honestly. 1,000 years old, born with 8 tails. Quite remarkable potential. So are you the legendary 9-tailed fox elder? I stared at Wang Ling lying utterly still in his hands, my voice tinged with urgency, because Wang Ling would only tremble in fear, frozen motionless, when held by a 9-tailed fox. What do you think? Not just anyone can stay in this Jihua cave. When I heard this, I was overjoyed. It really was Elder 9-tails. This trip wasn't in vain. Elder 9-tails, may I ask you for a favor? I looked at Ezra with hopeful eyes, asking in a soft, sweet voice. Speak. He didn't refuse. Practice dual cultivation with me. I could no longer care about whether it was embarrassing or not. Cough, cough. What did you say? Ezra was shocked by my words, his face full of astonishment, his ears turning completely red. Such an innocent old fox. Ezra was indeed a bit startled. Although he had some thoughts, he had planned to take things step by step. Never expected this little fox to be so, well, cough, passionately fiery. I was a bit nervous at first, but seeing QB's reaction, I suddenly wasn't nervous anymore. In fact, I felt terrifyingly strong. Without waiting for QB to react, I directly reached out both hands and hugged around his waist. The moment I hugged him, I felt his body stiffen, then he immediately reacted, trying to pull my hands away from his waist. I won't let go, I'm holding on even tighter. Callista, what are you doing? Let go now. Ezra's voice had grown hoarse. I won't let go. Ninetales, look into my eyes. Can you honestly say you don't feel anything for Callista? I blinked my eyes, gazing at Ninetales with a watery, pleading look. The voice was also deliberately made pitiful and endearing. I refuse to believe I can't win over this old fox. Ezra was left speechless by my question because he did indeed have feelings for her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used magic to bring her to Jihua Cave before she even set foot on the sacred mountain. No regrets. I'm an old fox who's many years your senior. Ezra's hands stopped moving as he looked down at me, his voice hoarse. No regrets. An old fox has his own merits. So, Elder Ninetales, when can we cultivate together? I asked him with a laugh while nestled in his arms. Hearing my words, Ezra also laughed, his previously resting hands reaching out to pull me into his embrace. Then he whispered softly in my ear, Callista, you don't need to call me Ninetales anymore, just call me Ezra. As for dual cultivation, when would Callista like to do it? Hearing this, my eyes lit up. This was promising. I got up from his embrace, then gave him a push. Ezra fell onto the stone bed behind him, following my momentum, of course. The sooner the better, I said to Ezra with a faint smile. His eyes were a strikingly beautiful golden color, now filled with the fire and allure of passion. They were staring directly, intently at me. This old fox is damnably seductive, I thought with a myriad of emotions. After sighing with emotion, I plopped right onto Ezra's lap, accidentally landing on an inappropriate spot, drawing a muffled groan from him. The rims of his eyes began reddening too. My face feigned innocence while my heart was bursting with glee. The old fox was getting flustered. The next second, Ezra's hand gripped my slender waist. In a swift motion, our positions reversed. Him on top, me beneath. Callista, you started this first. Don't beg for mercy later. I was just about to retort with a few words. MMPH. Ezra's scorching, domineering kiss cut me off, and soon, we were lost in the pleasures of passion. A night of spring is worth 1,000 pieces of gold. Humans really do have a way with words, and so, Ezra and I spent 3 entire months entwined in passion within these Jihua caves. During these 3 months, our feelings for each other grew intensely. I also learned the secret my mother had mentioned before I came to the Divine Mountain. It turns out I carried the bloodline of the Ninetales, but it had been sealed away. Only a powerful individual with the same bloodline can break my seal. Originally, the Queen Mother intended to use a secret technique to release my seal, but such methods ultimately harm the body, and Ezra is the perfect candidate. It was at this time that the Fox King sent a message through the royal decree, announcing that my dear sister was pregnant. It's possible the child carries the Ninetales bloodline. Leaning against Ezra's chest, I secretly sneered. I've finally conceived. Now it's time to return to the palace. After all, I'm also a player in this drama. With this thought, I looked up at Ezra, about to speak when suddenly, I was overcome with nausea and dry heaved. Hearing this, Ezra immediately asked what was wrong. I shook my head, indicating it was nothing, only to dry heave again the next second. Ezra frowned anxiously at the sight, holding me in his arms with heartache in his eyes. After calming down, I leaned weakly against Ezra's chest. Suddenly I remembered the symptoms I had during my previous pregnancy. Also nausea and dry heaving. Could it be? Am I pregnant? Thinking this, I quickly channeled my spiritual power to probe my abdomen. Soon, I could feel the intense life force within my belly. Seeing my movement, Ezra seemed to have guessed something. When I looked at him, I met his golden eyes full of anticipation. Congratulations, Ezra, you're going to be a father. I smiled as I congratulated Ezra. Ezra laughed, his joy evident as he carefully placed his large hand on my belly, gently caressing it. A slightly choked voice sounded by my ear. Thank you, Callista. This is my first child in 20,000 years. Before meeting you, I never imagined I'd have the chance to become a father one day. Old fox, don't you dare cry now. Your Highness is carrying fox cubs and easily affected. If you cry, I'll cry too. All right, I'm just overwhelmed. Not crying. Besides nausea, is Callista feeling any other discomfort? No, I'm just a bit hungry. I want to eat fish, roasted chicken, I want to eat everything. Alright, I'll satisfy all of Callista's wishes. Ezra lovingly kissed my forehead and spoke in a gentle voice, oh right. Ezra, I've been at the Divine Mountain for 3 months already. It's time I return to the Fox King's palace. Go back. By yourself. What about me then? Callista, you can't just love me and leave me. As soon as Ezra finished speaking urgently, I immediately slapped him lightly on the head the next second. What are you thinking? Have you read too many human storybooks? Of course. I'm taking you back with me. You're the fox cub's father after all. Just the fox cub's father. Huh? Ezra looked at me with a pitiful expression after hearing this. Of course, you're also my man, my future king consort. Gotta spoil your own man. If he wants recognition, just give it to him. I'm yours. Ezra cheered up. Alright, the old fox is so easy to please. Then can we go back tomorrow? Of course. Let's eat first. You're eating for 2 now. Can't go hungry. While speaking, Ezra gently lifted me out of his embrace, settled me comfortably, then went to prepare food for me. Watching his tall, straight-backed figure, I touched my belly, my face overflowing with a blissful smile. Having him in this lifetime is truly wonderful. Early the next morning, Ezra and I rose early, had a quick meal, then departed Johua Cave directly for the Fox King's palace. With the old fox around, returning to the Fox King's palace was a matter of minutes. In less than a quarter of an hour, the two arrived at the main hall of the palace, the Chinchio Hall. As soon as they arrived, the Fox King and Queen came forward to greet them warmly, inquiring about their well-being. The 2 elders initially intended to pay respects to Ezra, despite him being only 20,000 years old, but after all, he is a 9-tailed white fox, the most noble bloodline of the Fox clan. But Ezra refused, saying that he was now just my husband, the son-in-law of the Fox King and Queen, and how could a son-in-law let his parents-in-law bow to him? The Fox King and Queen were persuaded, and this little episode passed. Then the 4 of them began chatting about family matters, and the Fox King mentioned that members of the Fox clan had been disappearing recently, but they couldn't find out who was behind it, and I immediately thought of the forbidden technique Corbin used in his previous life. Father, when Corbin had his bloodline tested, the bloodline pool showed he was born as an 8-tailed purple fox, correct? Yes, your mother and I, along with all the elders, were present. Was there anything unusual about it? No. Why do you ask? Callista, do you suspect Corbin? Yes, go investigate his mother and elder June from the bloodline pool. Understood. The Fox King also seemed to have thought of something, responding with a solemn expression. After the conversation ended, Ezra and I returned to the bedchamber. Soon, news spread throughout the Fox clan that I had safely returned to the palace from the Divine Mountain while pregnant, bringing back tidings of a 6-tailed fox husband. On the 3rd day back at the palace, the Corbins couldn't wait to come knocking at our door. What else could it be? They were just here to mock and ridicule me. After all, I'm only carrying a 6-tailed fox child, while theirs might be a 9-tailed fox. When Corbin and Eloan arrived, I was resting with my eyes closed on the chaise lounge beneath the crabapple tree. Ezra sat on the round stool beside me, occasionally feeding me fruits. Little sister, what's troubling you? Not being able to find Elder Ninetails in the sacred mountain is one thing, but how could you settle for a 6-tailed fox? Exactly, and even got pregnant. The second prince is truly degrading himself. The voice arrived before the person did. Quite the act. As the words fell, Corbin and Eloan's figures finally appeared beneath the crabapple tree. The 2 spotted Ezra at first glance, for his striking beauty was truly eye-catching. Eloan was stunned. He was even more handsome than Corbin. What a pity, just a 6-tailed fox. Eloan averted her gaze, her eyes filled with disdain. Corbin's complexion didn't look too good either. Despite his self-proclaimed title as the most handsome man in the Fox clan, I opened my eyes, but only gave them a faint glance before saying nothing. Those 2 idiots somehow flew into a rage, taking my silence as contempt, and immediately started spewing all sorts of vulgar insults. The look in Ezra's eyes beside me had turned ice-cold, but I stopped him from taking action. I remained silent, waiting until they grew tired of speaking before leisurely responding with a few words. May I ask what you 2 are in such a hurry about? Weren't you both very confident in your own children? What's the matter? Could it be that the fox cub in your belly, sister, isn't even as good as my six-tailed fox cub. My gaze drifted lightly onto Eloan's belly, though I clearly hadn't done anything, but the faces of those two instantly turned noticeably paler. Eloan also instinctively covered her stomach with her hand, her gaze becoming unfocused. It was as if they had thought of something unpleasant. I wanted to say something more. Corbin and Eloan hastily left my chambers first. Watching their panicked retreat, I chuckled and muttered, utterly clueless. The moment I finished speaking, Ezra vanished from my side, but he returned shortly after. Vent done, I smirked at the man while teasing him. Humph, my wife Ezra and our fox cub are not subjects for others to gossip about or insult. Yes, don't worry. The day our fox cub is born will be the day of their demise. They truly deserve death. One for practicing forbidden arts and enhancing cultivation by slaughtering their own kin, the other, to give birth to a nine-tailed fox, didn't hesitate to harm themselves using evil forbidden arts, defying the natural order. They were simply partners in crime, deserving of death. The day after Ezra returned to the palace, he and his father thoroughly investigated Corbin's background. They discovered that Corbin's deceased mother had partial witch lineage, and witches were most skilled in forbidden arts. Corbin's eight-tailed bloodline was temporarily altered using forbidden arts, with the help of his father who was a bloodline pool elder. Creating an innate eight-tailed bloodline is simple enough, but maintaining this forbidden technique requires the power support of the same clan, and so, the Fox clan members became the source of his sustained power. Ezra was furious, never expecting the Fox clan to have fallen to such a state, once one of the three great demon clans that produced talents generation after generation. How unpredictable fate can be. I looked at Ezra's gloomy face, knowing exactly what was on his mind. With a gentle smile, I comforted him softly. All right, things may be bleak now, but you still have us. Trust me, the Fox clan will surely return to its former glory. Ezra gave me a tender smile and softly replied with a quiet, time flies. And soon 7 months had passed. Both my sister and I reached our due dates for childbirth. We were supposed to give birth on the same day, but my sister's labor was delayed because Corbin went to the brothel to have fun with a seductive fox spirit. Corbin even brought that fox spirit back to the mansion and took her as his concubine. Not only that, but the concubine would flaunt her status in front of my sister every day. Just today, that concubine made another scene. An elder sister was directly provoked. This caused her emotions to fluctuate too violently, advancing the delivery date by a full 5 days, resulting in premature birth at the Corbin residence. In the reception hall, the Fox King, Fox Queen, and the clan elders were all present. Ezra and I were also there, seated beside our father, looking down imperiously at Corbin kneeling in the center of the hall. The expressions on all the elders' faces were quite grim. After all, the fox cub in Eloan's belly might be a nine-tailed fox, though where that confidence comes from is anyone's guess. But now it's been provoked into premature birth, and it was the cub's own father who did this despicable deed. Corbin, aren't you going to explain yourself to this king? The Fox King fixed Corbin with a piercing vulpine stare. Your Majesty, I have nothing to say in my defense. Visiting the brothel and taking a concubine are all true facts. I beg for your punishment. With these words, Corbin bowed his head deeply, showing full sincerity in his remorse. Father, let it be. After all, he is the father of your grandchild. Just dispose of that concubine to vent my sister's anger. That should suffice. As I spoke, I turned the question back to Corbin. What do you think, brother-in-law? By now Corbin had raised his head, his eyes filled with a chilling coldness upon hearing my proposal. Ignoring him, I continued to gaze at him with a beaming smile. In the past life, Corbin doted on that glamorous concubine as if she were the apple of his eye. You ask why? Of course. It was because that glamorous concubine and Corbin grew up together as childhood sweethearts, even secretly pledging their lives to each other. Moreover, she particularly admired him, greatly satisfying his vanity. When old flames reunite, it's like dry wood meeting fierce fire. Their passion reignites. I have no objections, Corbin said, then closed his eyes resentfully. Just a concubine, dead or alive, it matters little. Once he ascends as Fox King, any vixen would be his for the taking. When I opened my eyes again, they were calm and unruffled. Callista, once Eloan gives birth to the nine-tailed fox and I ascend to the throne as the Fox King. By then, you must die. Guards, dispose of the concubine. the Fox King commanded directly. As you wish. After this small episode passed, the reception room fell silent again. As they waited, 3 hours passed by. Wah, wah, wah. 3 loud cries resounded throughout the mansion. Accompanying the cries were colorful auspicious clouds filling the sky and a faint floral fragrance in the air. Colorful auspicious clouds. 100 flowers bloom. The Fox people kneel in worship. The 9-tailed bloodline has been born. The crowd in the hall shouted excitedly. The hope of the Fox clan has finally been born. The Fox King and Queen also wore joyful expressions. Your Majesty, let us first go see what this 9-tailed cub looks like. Well, go ahead. As the Fox King finished speaking, the elders left the living room and headed toward the delivery room. As for me and Ezra, on the surface, I appeared deeply hurt, as if deeply affected, while Ezra looked at me with heartfelt sympathy. Comforting me. Actually, we were whispering to each other. Daddy, was your birth scene like this when you came into the world? No, it was even grander. This doesn't compare to mine at all. You're amazing. Will our little fox cub have the same grand entrance as you did? Yes, because his mother is also a 9-tailed fox, so our cub's birth will be even more magnificent. But Callista, even if our fox cub isn't a born 9-tailed fox cub, he's still our child, isn't he? Ezra's words warmed my heart. I gently stroked my pregnant belly and said, yes, as long as he can be born healthy, I'll be at ease. Let me grieve for a while. That Mr. June is looking at me again. All right, Ezra responded to me with both doting and helplessness. Corbin gazed at the phenomenon, his eyes filled with ecstasy. A 9-tailed fox. Ha 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 ha. Soon he would become the Fox King, the most revered figure in the entire Fox clan. Callista, your time of death is approaching. Corbin looked at me, utterly heartbroken and disbelieving. As I lay in Ezra's arms, his voice was full of provocation. Your Highness Callista, look, my 9-tailed fox cub has been born, while your fox cub, at best, will only have 7 or 8 tails. Ha 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 ha. After saying this, seeing that I seemed even more heartbroken, he burst into laughter again. Corbin, that's enough, mind your language, the Fox King said calmly. Yes. I was too excited and forgot my manners. I beg your Majesty's forgiveness. The Fox King ignored him further as the elders who went to see the 9-tailed fox cub returned. They all wore joyful expressions, clearly very satisfied with the cub. Your Majesty, the fox cub is very healthy, and its bloodline is exceptionally pure. There is hope for our fox clan to restore its former glory. Nonsense. That's Ezra's genuine 9-tailed fox bloodline. How could it not be pure? I rolled my eyes hard in my heart. Very well, Corbin, tomorrow, you and Eloan shall return to live in the palace. There are more people in the palace, and the care is more meticulous, which will better suit the fox cub. Moreover, I've said that whoever gives birth to the 9-tailed fox shall become the new Fox King and Queen of the Fox clan. Therefore, returning to the palace would make it more convenient to hold the ceremony. Yes, your subject shall dutifully obey His Majesty's command. After speaking, the Fox King assigned several attendants to Corbin before departing for the Fox Palace with the Queen and the elders. I couldn't be bothered to deal with that lunatic Corbin either. The objective was achieved anyway, and Ezra and I returned to the palace. This time Corbin didn't stop us, just watched us with a heavy gaze. Soon, 5 days passed, and I gave birth as expected. As for Corbin and Eloan, they were in complete panic because the Forbidden Techniques time limit was approaching. Only 8 hours remained. Not only that, but the coronation ceremony is also set to begin in 8 hours. Meanwhile, in the delivery room, I was in so much pain I was nearly numb, yet the baby still hadn't arrived. Outside the door, Ezra's eyes turned red with heartache as he listened to my cries of pain. Callista, please let me come in and see you. Okay, I heard him, but I didn't have the strength to answer. In this agonizing time, only half an hour remained before the ceremony. With one final push in the delivery room, I let out a loud cry. Ah, wah, wah, wah. The sound of vigorous crying echoed through heaven and earth. It's born, the second prince is born. The midwife's delighted voice rang out. Upon hearing that cry, I completely collapsed from exhaustion. The heavens and earth also changed color when that cry resounded. Phoenixes sang in unison, dragons roared in celebration, colorful clouds filled the sky, spiritual rain fell, flowers bloomed in profusion with their fragrance permeating the air, and all beasts bowed in submission. This is the proper spectacle befitting the birth of a nine-tailed fox cub. The Fox clan members gazed at the grand celestial phenomenon, voicing their doubts one after another. Didn't the nine-tailed fox cub already born 5 days ago? What's the meaning of this new phenomenon? Could there possibly be two nine-tailed cubs in their fox clan? Just as everyone was still puzzled, the Fox King and Queen, witnessing the grand celestial phenomenon, were already ecstatic with joy. The true nine-tailed bloodline of their fox clan had finally been born. It was also time for their plan to come to fruition. When I woke up, Ezra was sitting by the bed holding the fox cub, keeping me company. Seeing me awake, Ezra's eyes lit up as he first reached out to gently tidy my hair, then he lowered his head to kiss my forehead before helping me sit up against the headboard, his voice filled with tenderness and gratitude as he said, "You've worked hard, Callista. Are you still feeling unwell anywhere?" "I'm fine, feeling good. How's the little fox cub?" I asked softly. "The fox cub is very good, very well behaved. Take a look," Ezra said, extending his large hand to gently place the sleeping fox cub into my arms. I held the soft little bundle carefully, my gaze tenderly resting on the white, fluffy fox cub in my arms. "The cub's fox form looks exactly like yours," I said, looking up at Ezra. Ezra listened to my words and smiled gently. "It's identical. The cub knows exactly how to grow, understanding what mother likes," Ezra said while giving me a meaningful look, his eyes full of teasing. "So what? I just like it." "Humph." I wasn't angry because it was true. I really did like Ezra's fox form. "Yes, as long as Callista likes it," Ezra responded dotingly. "By the way, is the ceremony about to start soon?" "Yes. Shall we go now?" "Of course." Those two must be furious, just as I guessed. Corbin and Eloan went mad with rage when they found out I gave birth to a nine-tailed fox, especially since the time limit of the forbidden technique was approaching. Both of them were on the verge of collapse. "That bitch Callista actually dared to deceive them, Corbin. How can you just accept this? The Fox King's throne that was almost within our grasp is about to slip away," Eloan said bitterly while sitting by the bed. "Of course I'm not willing, so what if they gave birth to a nine-tailed fox? I'll make their cubs become nourishment for mine. Perhaps if the fox cub devours that wretch's child, it could truly become a nine-tailed fox." Corbin couldn't help but entertain this possibility. After all, the reason he transformed from a three-tailed green fox into today's eight-tailed purple fox was none other than forbidden arts. Wasn't it precisely because he'd also devoured many high-ranking foxes? If he can, why can't his fox cub? As Eloan listened to Corbin's thoughts, she naturally recalled how Corbin became an eight-tailed purple fox. The thought that she married a lowly three-tailed green fox by birth, while that wretch Callista's husband was a noble nine-tailed white fox, she hated, she envied. What right did Callista have, since I, Eloan, can't have the best? Then I'll destroy it. All right, let's hurry to the Great Hall then. Soon, the Chinchou Palace was filled with people, the Fox King and Queen, the clan elders. There were also representatives from the Dragon Clan, Phoenix Clan, and other factions. Our family of three and Corbin's family of three have also arrived. We stood facing each other, with Corbin and Eloan glaring at us fiercely. Seeing everyone assembled, the Fox King immediately declared the coronation ceremony begun. One ritual after another proceeded, until finally reaching the final segment, the coronation of the new king and queen. Just as Corbin and Eloan were walking toward the throne with smiles on their faces, suddenly, the fox cub that had been quietly nestled in Eloan's arms began struggling violently. Its body also emitted a blinding red-black light, which the people in the grand hall stared at. Their expressions changed drastically as they screamed in terror. "Forbidden magic! It's forbidden magic!" Corbin and Eloan's faces also began to show panic, and Eloan's grip loosened slightly due to fright. This directly caused the fox cub in her arms to leap onto the ground with a forceful jump. As soon as it landed, the wrapped blanket came loose, and the red-black glow dissipated. What appeared before everyone was not a nine-tailed white fox, but a four-tailed gray fox. How is this just a four-tailed gray fox? Wasn't it said to be of nine-tailed lineage? Indeed, and it appears they even used forbidden arts to attain this nine-tailed form. How utterly absurd. Has the Fox clan fallen so low that they resort to forbidden techniques to forge nine-tailed bloodlines? Absolutely. The Fox King remained utterly unfazed by this scene, not uttering a word as he silently observed. The crowd buzzed with discussion. their mocking and disdainful gazes all falling upon Corbin and Eloan as the parents. Corbin's eyes burned with surging hatred and madness as each taunting word struck him. Eloan was no less affected. Trembling with rage from head to toe, the next second, Corbin suddenly turned around, pointing his sword at the crowd in the hall and roared, "Shut up, all of you!" Everyone was frightened by his frenzied appearance, and the hall instantly fell silent. Seeing this, Ezra shielded me and the cub behind him, extending his right hand as a pure white longsword materialized in his grasp. I knew that was his life-bound weapon. What do you know? I, Corbin, will definitely be the new Fox King, the only nine-tailed fox in the Fox clan. As he spoke, Corbin reached out and pulled the trembling fox cub into his grasp. He said ominously, "You don't need to become a nine-tailed fox either, I'm more suitable." With that, he directly drained the cub's spiritual energy. In just a few seconds, the cub turned into a desiccated corpse. Eloan was stunned by the sight before her, then snapped back to reality and channeled her spiritual energy to strike at Corbin. Without turning around, Corbin unleashed a surge of spiritual energy with his left hand, instantly severely injuring Eloan. Eloan let out a cry as she was sent flying, spitting several mouthfuls of blood before snarling viciously, "Corbin, may you die a wretched death. You're nothing but a lowly three-tailed green fox, yet you dare dream of using forbidden arts to make me bear nine-tailed bloodline. Absolutely ridiculous. Now you've even killed the child I fought so hard to bring into this world, just to achieve the nine tails for yourself. Disgusting, preposterous. You still don't know, do you? The forbidden technique was his doing, and those fallen clansmen of the fox tribe were also his handiwork. Everything he did was to become a nine-tailed fox." "What, Corbin, you're nothing but a demon, a devil. You're utterly unworthy of being a member of our Fox clan." The Fox clan members shouted angrily in fury. After hearing Eloan and the clansmen's words, Corbin wasn't angry. Instead, he laughed, but in the next second, his sword moved. It flew straight toward Eloan with lightning speed, piercing her heart in one strike. Eloan died, noisy, with a reach of his hand. The sword returned to his grasp. "Yes, I did it all. So what if I, Corbin, am a three-tailed fox? Soon I'll be the noble nine-tailed fox, to become the exalted king of the Fox clan. I'll make you all grovel at my feet and be my slaves, in your dreams," I shouted angrily. Corbin, lost in his fantasy, gritted his teeth in hatred upon hearing my voice, staring at me with fierce eyes. He spoke, "Callista, you bitch, today not only will you die, your fox cub will die too." He immediately turned and attacked me and Ezra, whose eyes turned cold, casting a protective barrier around me and the fox cub. He flew into a fierce fight with Corbin. A nine-tailed fox is indeed a nine-tailed fox. Its strength surpasses by more than just a little. Soon, Corbin was at a disadvantage, pierced through the chest by Ezra's sword, then sent crashing heavily near me with a single palm strike, though the sword missed slightly, because I still had words to say to him. For safety, Ezra also crippled his limbs. I stepped out of the barrier and handed the yowling fox cub to Ezra to hold. Then I walked over and crouched beside Corbin, whispering, "Corbin, aren't you curious how I gave birth to a six-tailed blue fox in my past life? After all, you're just a three-tailed green fox." Corbin stared at me with wide eyes. "Because I'm also a nine-tailed fox, yet you killed him." As I spoke, I released my 9 fox tails. "I'm possible," Corbin muttered in disbelief as he stared at the 9 tails, tch, and about my sister's previous life being able to bear an 8-tailed fox. That's only because her husband was actually a natural-born 8-tailed fox. Oh right, one more thing. You didn't actually think just some forbidden technique alone could produce a 9-tailed fox, did you? Hearing this, Corbin understood everything. From the moment Callista returned to the Fox King's palace from the Divine Mountain, all of this was just a trap they had set, and he actually believed it. If it weren't for the trace of 9-tailed fox bloodline from Ezra protecting you, that child of yours would have been stillborn long before birth. Forbidden techniques are forbidden precisely because they're too evil and harmful, yet you treat it as divine magic. Using it yourself wasn't enough, it was also used on the child and elder sister. Corbin, you abandoned the righteous path to practice forbidden arts, even sacrificing your own flesh and blood. You're the one harming others and yourself, deceiving yourself, and utterly useless. Therefore, whether in past lives or this one, the one who most deserves to die is you, Corbin. As soon as I finished speaking, Corbin's eyes suddenly shut tight. a tear streaming from the corner. Then, as he opened his eyes as if to say something, blood spurted from his mouth the moment he spoke. His eyes widened abruptly. His body convulsed a few times before going still, dead with eyes unclosed. Oh, I hadn't even made a move yet. Corbin died with the unwillingness, resentment, regret, and inferiority complex in his heart, and I finally did it for my past self and child. I avenged those clansmen who died tragically. I stood up and walked towards Ezra and the fox cub with a smile. From this life onward, every day will be filled with joy. Ezra and I will spend the rest of our lives in happiness. Story 2. A wave of zombies broke out, and my whole family abandoned me to flee for their lives. I finally caught up with them. But there were only 5 seats left in the rescue helicopter. In order to save her beloved dog, my sister-in-law pushed me off with a shove. Your life is not as precious as Coco's. If you take a seat, where will Coco sit? My parents watched coldly, and my younger brother clapped his hands in approval. Zombies surrounded me from a distance and roared as they bit me to death alive. After I died, my soul followed them to the shelter. I watched as they used the instant noodles I had desperately snatched to exchange for a good place to live, with no worries about food and drink. When I opened my eyes again, I found that I had been reborn, and I also awakened an apocalypse system that would free me from worries about food, drink, and the threat of zombies. This time, I will move into a luxurious villa, enjoy delicacies from various countries, make all the zombies work for me, and punish this vicious and biased family. 1. A dozen or so main dishes, including abalones, lobsters, and braised pork, were spread out on the table. My mother kept picking food for my sister-in-law, saying, "Hope, you've just conceived Donovan's child, you need to eat more." "Thank you, Mom." Upon hearing this, my sister-in-law picked up a huge pork shank and started eating heartily. I looked at the bright red shreds of meat in her bowl, but felt a spasm in my stomach and couldn't help but want to vomit. Every bite of meat she took seemed as if it were biting into my own body. The pain of being eaten alive and dissected was still vivid in my mind. I couldn't believe it. I had really been reborn. I was reborn on the very day when the city was surrounded by zombies. The sound of the news broadcast on the living room TV rang out. Early this morning, a vicious biting incident occurred in the city center hospital. The suspect was delirious and seriously injured more than a dozen doctors and patients. He has now been transferred to a psychiatric hospital. Recently, there have been many vicious incidents on the streets. We urge all citizens to go out less and be more cautious. In my previous life, it was after watching this news that I kindly reminded my family that it was quite chaotic outside recently and that we should stock up on more food at home just in case. It would be better to eat less of a sumptuous feast like this one today. However, my good intentions were misinterpreted by them. My mother pointed at my nose and said that I had a jinx's mouth and couldn't say anything good, and that I was ruining my sister-in-law's good day. My younger brother and sister-in-law looked at me with disgust on their faces and threatened that they would rather feed the food on the table to the dog than give me a single bite. My father, as always, was indifferent. He drank his small cup of wine by himself and said that it was indeed true that my mother hadn't taught me well, and that having a daughter was both useless and troublesome. Later, they chased me off the dining table while they feasted. I was really worried. So I smashed open the piggy bank where I had saved my spare change for several years and went out to a nearby supermarket, hoping to buy some convenient food that was easy to store. However, due to the news, several nearby supermarkets were completely cleared out. After walking for a long time, I finally managed to grab 2 bags of instant noodles in a small supermarket. When I got downstairs to my home, a large number of residents were rushing out, and helicopters and rescue vehicles were picking them up in batches. I could have left directly, but when I saw that the lights in my house were still on, I rushed back to the door of my house against the flow of people. At this time, the door of the house was wide open. My sister-in-law, holding the dog, rushed out first, and my father and mother protected my younger brother and walked behind. They didn't even think of the fact that I hadn't escaped yet. It was only when they saw me that my mother cursed. "You damned girl has a really tough life. You still haven't died." They snatched the instant noodles from my hand. My sister-in-law found it troublesome to hold the dog and threw the dog to me. I had no choice but to run outside with my family. When we saw the rescue helicopter, we realized that there weren't enough seats in the helicopter. If the 5 of us sat in it, there wouldn't be room for the dog. My sister-in-law gave me a look of disgust. reached out and grabbed the dog, and then kicked me off the helicopter. Not a single person in the whole family came to my rescue. They just watched as I fell off the helicopter. Not far away, the out-of-control zombie horde was gradually approaching. I, who was left behind, would surely be torn to pieces and bitten to death. In extreme pain, I became the food of the zombies bite by bite. After losing consciousness, my soul didn't disappear immediately. Instead, it followed my family, and I saw them taking a helicopter to the shelter. There, they used the 2 bags of instant noodles I had bought to exchange for a decent place to live. Every day, there was enough food and water for them to survive. My soul was filled with unwillingness. Before it dissipated, a voice claiming to be the apocalypse system awakened within me. I was reborn, and I also had a system that would keep me free from worries about food, drink, and danger in the apocalypse. This time, not only do I want to live a wonderful life in this zombie apocalypse, but I also want this biased and vicious family to pay the price and meet a bad end, too. My thoughts returned to the present. I watched as my sister-in-law took big bites of the pork shank, with oil dripping from her mouth. I deliberately stared at her without blinking, pretending to be extremely greedy. Sure enough, my sister-in-law stopped chewing, glanced at me, and complained to my mother, saying, "Mom, look at her. Her saliva is almost dripping onto the table. It's making me lose my appetite." My mother threw down her chopsticks and pointed at my nose. "Jade, are you doing this on purpose? Don't you know that your sister-in-law is carrying our family's offspring? You should be satisfied with having plain rice to eat. What are you looking at? If you keep looking, I'll gouge out your eyes." As she spoke, she quickly moved the plates of meat dishes closer to me, even further away. I couldn't reach the dishes before, and now I could really only eat plain rice at the dining table in my family. I've always been not allowed to eat much, in my mother's words. As a girl, I'm naturally a burden and a waste of food. However, since my younger brother married my sister-in-law, although she is also a girl, my mother loves her because of my younger brother. Not only can she eat whatever she wants, but she also doesn't have to do any housework on a daily basis. My mother keeps saying that she needs to give birth to a precious grandson for the Donovan family and can't be tired or hungry. Now that my sister-in-law is really pregnant, the whole family treats her like a treasure. Whenever she is a little unhappy, she takes it out on me. Sure enough, when my sister-in-law saw that my mother was scolding me on her behalf, she looked extremely proud. Her eyes rolled around, and she saw Coco begging for food at the corner of the table. Coco is a bichon frise. My sister-in-law loves it very much on a daily basis. In the family, even Coco has a higher status than me. My sister-in-law leaned close to my younger brother and whispered something to him. My younger brother laughed heartily after hearing it. "Haha, that's a great idea." As he spoke, he called Coco over, stood up, picked up a large basin of meat, and poured it directly onto the ground. Coco barked happily and started eating the meat voraciously. Only then did my younger brother look at me proudly, looking down on me. "Jade, aren't you greedy? Watch carefully. The food in our family. I'd rather feed it to the dog than give you a single bite. You made my wife feel sick. You, a burden, still want to eat good food. You're daydreaming." I watched as he poured plate after plate of meat dishes onto the ground. On the surface, I showed an expression of great distress, kept swallowing my saliva, and pleaded with my younger brother, "Brother, can you leave some for me? Leave some for me. I'm so hungry. Just one bite is enough." But in my heart, I sneered, "It's good that you're pouring it all out. I just want none of you in this family to be able to eat it. This is the last good meal you guys will ever have in your lives. When the zombies come and supplies are in short supply, I'm afraid you won't even be able to eat dog food." My parents watched my younger brother's absurd actions. Not only did they not stop him, but my mother even praised him. "Hee, Donovan is right. It's better to feed it to our dog's son than to the burden." In the end, the delicious dishes on the table were either eaten by Coco after being poured on the ground or were carelessly eaten and wasted cleanly by my younger brother and sister-in-law. After the meal, the whole family lay on the sofa with their bellies full. Naturally, I was the only one left to do the dishes and clean up. They ignored the mess on the dining table, ate sunflower seeds, and started watching TV. While washing the dishes in the kitchen, I listened to the conversation in the living room. In my previous life, as soon as I saw the news on TV, I told them to stock up on supplies. This time, without my reminder, they didn't notice the news until they had rested for a while after the meal. My mother was a bit worried, saying, "The vicious injury incidents mentioned on the TV are really quite scary." Just now, an expert also said that citizens are advised to go out less during this period and stock up on more food at home. Should we also go and buy some? My younger brother sneered upon hearing this. An expert? An expert is nothing. You guys are so easily brainwashed by this kind of news. 1 minute it's about a war, and the next it's about a natural disaster. It's all just rumors. As far as I'm concerned, this is a conspiracy to deliberately boost consumption. I will definitely not follow the trend and stock up on supplies. My father nodded in agreement and pretended to be profound, saying, "Donovan is right. You have a good head on your shoulders, just like me." My younger brother was proud and touched my sister-in-law's belly, sighing, "The baby Hope is carrying must be a son. We can't have a daughter, or else she'll be as stupid as my sister and will only end up with a life of doing laundry and sweeping the floor in the future. That's for sure. It must be a big, chubby boy." My sister-in-law leaned against my younger brother's shoulder, looking very happy. I looked at this self-righteous family, where they couldn't see. I took out my phone to check. I opened the community group chat, and there were already over 999 messages in it. Many people said that they had seen government rescue vehicles and helicopters evacuating the surrounding communities, and that the nearby supermarkets had long been cleared out. Now, it was extremely difficult to buy convenient food. My parents thought it was too troublesome and didn't join the community group at all. I had always been the one to deal with these trivial matters at home, so they were still enjoying a peaceful life at the moment and had no idea about the turmoil happening in the community. I calculated the time. It was almost time for the community staff to knock on doors from house to evacuate the residents. I deliberately turned the water on to the maximum. The sound of the rushing water caught my mother's attention. She cursed angrily, "You damned girl, turning the water on so big. Don't you know water costs money?" I was so scared that I panicked, and the plate in my hand accidentally fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Sorry, I'll clean it up right away." I hurriedly brought over the vacuum cleaner and turned it on. Immediately, a huge noise from the vacuum cleaner rang out. As I lowered my head to clean up the debris, the corners of my mouth curled into a smile. Naturally, I dropped the plate on purpose, aiming to create a huge noise with the vacuum cleaner. Amidst my mother's scolding, I indeed saw my sister-in-law impatiently touching her belly as she got up from the sofa, pulled my younger brother, and closed the door to return to the master bedroom. The sound of fetus education music came from inside. Since getting pregnant, my sister-in-law has become even more averse to noise. I deliberately turned on the vacuum cleaner just to force her back to the room. After all, with me being the only one left in the living room, the staff who came to knock on the door and give the reminder could be easily deceived by me and sent away. Not long after my sister-in-law went back to the room, my parents also got bored sitting in the living room. They had always disliked me and didn't want to be in the same space as me. After a while, they also went back to their room. As I had hoped, the living room was now empty. With only me diligently doing the cleaning, I used the vacuum cleaner for a while and then let the water make a rushing sound. I pretended to be doing the cleaning seriously, but in fact, I was stalling for time. I still hadn't finished cleaning after a long time, and my mother opened the door and scolded me again. "Are you never going to finish today? Why is it taking you so long?" I wiped the floor that I had already wiped 3 times with a wronged expression, looking innocent. "Mom, today the dishes were all poured on the ground, and Coco licked oil all over the place. I have to clean it up properly." My mother snorted, seemingly accepting this explanation. She glanced at me and told me to hurry up, or else she would cause trouble for me. After saying that, she slammed the bedroom door shut and went back to the room to watch short videos. As expected, after a while, the door was knocked on violently. I quickly went to the door and opened it. I saw 2 fully armed staff members who reminded us to go out immediately and evacuate in an orderly manner. I nodded and said that I was the only one at home and that I would pack up and leave right away. After closing the door, I soothed Coco, who was barking, listening to the neighbors who were hurriedly following the staff's footsteps and leaving in the corridor behind the door. I locked the door from the inside and continued to pretend to be doing things in the living room while humming a song. If I let this family evacuate so easily and then smoothly enter the shelter and live a peaceful life, how could I enjoy the show? 3. I cleaned the house from the inside out. Of course, anything that could be eaten was disposed of as garbage by me. I made sure that they couldn't find even a little bit of food. I knew the rules of the shelter from my previous life for the people who went in to take refuge. If they had extra supplies in their hands and handed them over to the shelter, they could exchange them for better living conditions. Secondly, the choice of accommodation was on a first-come, first-served basis. In other words, those who could arrive first and had more supplies in their hands could obtain a good environment in the shelter. Those who went there late would naturally find that all the good accommodations had been divided up. At that time, you would need to have more supplies to exchange with others in order to get a decent place to live. In a nutshell, time was money, and those who could enter first would naturally take full advantage. In my previous life, my parents took my younger brother and sister-in-law and rushed there early, regardless of my life or death. They also obtained a good place to live by relying on the 2 large bags of instant noodles I had snatched. This time, without my advanced stockpiling of supplies and with me deliberately delaying their escape time, I wanted to see how they would suffer in the shelter. It was only when the loudspeaker downstairs in the community sounded, repeatedly broadcasting to remind all the residents in the building to evacuate, that my parents realized something was wrong. They knocked on the door and called my younger brother and sister-in-law out of the room. The whole family stood on the balcony and looked down. Behind the fully armed staff, there were rescue vehicles parked in full, and search and rescue helicopters were flying in the sky. The surrounding residents rushed to get on the vehicles one after another, afraid that they would miss their chance if they were too late. My father turned around and slapped me, saying, "You jinx, for such a big thing, why didn't you remind us?" I pointed at the mop in my hand with a wronged expression, saying, "Dad, I've been doing the cleaning all this time and really didn't notice." My mother grabbed my hair and took her anger out on me, saying, "If you want to die, then go and die by yourself. Why are you dragging our whole family down with you? It's all your fault for having a jinx's mouth. It's all your fault that we're so unlucky." My sister-in-law hugged my younger brother in a panic, saying, "Donovan, what should we do? The vehicles are almost leaving. We won't be left behind, will we?" My younger brother pushed her away and kept waving downstairs. "Over here, look over here. We haven't left yet." There were too many people downstairs, and the scene was chaotic and noisy. It wasn't until my father joined my younger brother in shouting that the staff noticed them. The staff immediately picked up a loudspeaker and shouted at us. Residents on the upper floors should evacuate to the rooftop. There's still a helicopter waiting. The whole family rushed out of the house in a hurry. My parents protected my younger brother, and my sister-in-law held the dog in her arms. They rushed to the rooftop without stopping. At this time, the helicopter was already waiting, and the pilot urged that there wasn't enough time and they had to set off immediately. I tried to follow them, but my sister-in-law pushed me away. "What are you following for? There are only 5 seats. What would happen to my Coco if you took one?" My mother chimed in, "That's right, with you around, we'd have one more mouth to feed. Go away, don't drag us down." My father and younger brother didn't say anything. They were in a rush to board the helicopter and didn't even look at me once, as if I wasn't their family member. I looked at the family who didn't care about me at all in the face of life and death. If in my previous life they abandoned me because they didn't pay attention, this time, I clearly had the chance to escape with them, yet they still didn't want to let me live. At this moment, the last bit of warmth I had for this family dissipated. They scrambled to get on the helicopter and looked down at me coldly, leaving me behind. In the distance, I could already hear the howling of the zombie horde. The pilot couldn't bear it and asked me one last time before taking off, "Little girl, there's still some room, are you really not coming?" Facing desperate situations, many people revealed the ugly side of human nature. He had witnessed countless such disgraceful scenes these days, but he still wanted to save anyone he could. I smiled, grateful for the kindness from the stranger, and shook my head. "No, this family clearly doesn't need me. There's no point in living." The propellers started to spin, and the helicopter took off with a roar. As the whole family watched me standing there in the last moment, I heard them say, "Great, we finally got rid of this burden. Good riddance to that useless girl. Good that she's dead. Good riddance. Ha ha ha." I walked slowly to the edge of the rooftop and jumped off. Below was group after group of zombies that had surrounded the place, but contrary to what my family expected, I wasn't swarmed and bitten to death. The moment the zombies saw me, they gathered around. holding their hands up to perfectly catch me as I jumped from the tall building. Not only did they not attack me, but they were even willing to harm themselves to protect me, the system said. Congratulations, Master, for activating the apocalypse system. The zombie control mode has been activated for you. Next, there are also the bountiful food mode, perfect residence mode, and endless entertainment mode. Which one would you like to activate? I smiled faintly. Then let's start by finding a luxurious villa. Fill it with food and drinks, so I can lie back and watch the show. The good play was finally about to begin. Arranged by the system, I moved into a luxurious villa with more than a dozen rooms. The villa came with a rooftop swimming pool, a full-set PS5 game room, an indoor KTV, a sauna and hot spring room, and so on. When I got bored, I could go out of the villa and take a walk in the landscaped garden, which was as big as a basketball court. There were fountains, rockeries, small bridges over flowing water, and tall walls that blocked the zombie horde outside. This paradise-like place stood in sharp contrast to the devastated world outside. I sat at the exquisite Western dining table in the living room, eating the sirloin steak prepared for me by the system. I raised a glass of 1982 Lafite red wine and took a sip. In the storage cabinet not far away, there were delicacies from various countries, whether it was Indian cuisine, Brazilian cuisine, French cuisine, Japanese cuisine, Korean cuisine. As long as I called the system, the corresponding dishes would immediately appear out of thin air. I didn't have to worry about food and drink at all. I picked up the remote control of the projector, the screen came down, and the lights in the living room dimmed automatically. On the screen of the home theater, the live scenes of my parents, younger brother, and sister-in-law in the shelter were being played automatically. Yes, I specifically asked the system to broadcast their live situations to the screen in front of me at any time, to amuse myself during the boring days. When the city was surrounded by zombies, no TV drama or game plot was more interesting than watching this group of evil people suffer. At this time, they were slinking off the helicopter. Because of their heinous act of abandoning their own daughter, the pilot was very dissatisfied with them. As soon as they arrived near the shelter, he couldn't wait to urge them to get off the helicopter. The place where they landed was not a completely safe area. The family was so scared by the roars of the zombies in the distance that they scrambled into the shelter, afraid that if they were a second slower, they would be bitten by the zombies. My younger brother was in such a hurry that he accidentally tripped over a wooden board at the entrance and fell to the ground, scraping his knee. My mother immediately helped my younger brother up, looking at the fingernail-sized wound on his knee with concern. Son, does it hurt? Let Mom take a good look. Whenever my younger brother got the slightest scratch, my mother would cry and fret over him. She completely forgot that she had another daughter who was abandoned by her. If it weren't for the system, that daughter would have been eaten alive by zombies. After making sure my younger brother was okay, they finally had time to look at the shelter in front of them. This was one of the numerous shelters in Jing City, built temporarily and able to accommodate about 1,000 people. Most of the people in this shelter were residents from our community and the neighboring community. When the staff saw the new arrivals, they came forward to register. How many of you are there? Four. My mother answered hastily. The staff glanced at Coco in my sister-in-law's arms. Food is distributed according to the number of people. Pets are generally allowed in, but there's no extra food for them. My sister-in-law immediately got anxious. How can that be? Coco eats steak at home. Can't you give us one more portion of food? The staff frowned and looked coldly at my sister-in-law's unreasonable behavior. No, food is limited, and everything must be in accordance with the regulations. My younger brother and sister-in-law were used to being willful. Whenever they didn't get their way, they would start cursing. This is outrageous. Just because you're a staff member, you think you're so high and mighty, you can't just have the final say. My mother also sighed beside them. Sigh. I should have brought Jade with us. She could have gone without food, and we could have given her share to Coco. I sneered. Now they remembered me. It was wishful thinking to use my food to feed their dog. The family's unreasonable behavior drew the dissatisfaction of the people around them. Hey, who do we have here? Isn't this the family that abandoned their own daughter? Oh, the family from Building 10. I've seen heartless people, but never one as heartless as them. I say, people like this shouldn't even be allowed into the shelter. Evil people seem to live forever. The whispers of criticism made the whole family lose face. The staff also learned about their rascality. After asking a few more questions according to the regulations and finding that they had no extra food to hand over, the staff waved their hand and assigned them to the worst area. The four-member Donovan's family go to Area F. As for where to live, you can choose for yourselves. The staff left with a cold snort. When my parents led my younger brother and sister-in-law to Area F, they realized it was the worst area. There were just a few pieces of cardboard erected temporarily as partitions. There were no beds, just 4 tattered cotton mats on the ground. Living here, the family had no privacy at all, let alone the comfort of good food and accommodation. Mom, do we really have to live here? Why, in Area F, we not only have to sleep on the ground, but our location is also the dirtiest and smelliest in the whole area. My younger brother couldn't help it. He pinched his nose to block the smell of the public toilet right in front of their living place. Since they arrived the latest, even the better places in Area F had been taken. Now the place where the family lived was unwanted and reeked of the public toilet. My sister-in-law fanned the foul air in front of her nose and made several gagging motions. It's all your sister's fault, that jinx. If it weren't for her delaying us, we might have gotten a good place if we had come earlier. It doesn't matter if I smell bad, but I'm carrying the precious grandson of the Donovan family. If anything happens to him, her 10 lives wouldn't be enough to make up for it. Hearing this, my mother gritted her teeth in anger. That damned girl deserves to die. Fortunately, she's surely dead by now. Otherwise, I'd skin her alive to vent my anger. Okay, stop arguing. I'm hungry after all this toss. Someone go and find something to eat. My father lay down on the cotton mat, choosing a spot by the side, the furthest from the stinky place. He put his hands behind his head and started ordering people around. While this family was suffering, I, whom they thought was already dead, was comfortably sitting on a 1/8-meter Simmons soft bed, enjoying the second round of supper prepared by the system. On the movable dining table were a 12-inch Hawaiian pizza, Korean-style fried chicken, and a full glass of iced cola, as I wished. The screen had been moved to the white wall of the spacious master bedroom for projection. Watching them hungry, with pale faces from the stench of the toilet, I leisurely took out a bottle of Joe Malone perfume and sprayed it. The fresh scent of a forest after rain. It was very pleasant. Food distribution in the shelter was limited, and it was only distributed twice a day at fixed times. Those who missed the time wouldn't get any. By the time this family finished arguing over who should go to get the food, it was long past the distribution time. In the past, I was always the one they ordered around to do such troublesome errands. Now, without me, my father and younger brother were used to being idle, and my sister-in-law, relying on my younger brother's support, refused to suffer any losses. So, the unpleasant task fell on my mother. My mother, with a thick face, begged the staff to make an exception and give them the food they missed due to the fact that there was a pregnant woman in the family. The staff said matter-of-factly, "The regulations state that those who miss the time won't get any food." My mother didn't give up. She grabbed the staff's arm flatteringly. "If getting the food after the time isn't possible, can I get it in advance? I'll get tomorrow's portion." The staff shook off her hand angrily. "Except for the free food distribution on the first day, food will become increasingly scarce in the future. People have to earn their food through labor. The shelter won't distribute food to those who make no contribution." "Don't even think about it." My mother returned to their living place dejectedly, empty-handed. My father and younger brother each kicked her out. My father, unable to get any food, pointed at my mother and cursed angrily. "Just like your damned daughter, you're useless too. Go out and get some food right now. Don't come back without it." My mother had no choice but to go out again, begging neighbors door to door for some food, but with the city surrounded by zombies, supplies were in short supply. Food and water were the capital for survival. Who would be so kind as to give away their own scarce food? Moreover, since my parents, younger brother, and sister-in-law had started arguing with the staff as soon as they arrived, now everyone knew that they were a heartless family who had left their daughter to die. No one was willing to be nice to them or give them any food. Naturally, my mother came back empty-handed and was scolded by the whole family for a long time. She was also driven to sleep on the outermost bed, the closest to the toilet. The family lay on the ground, hungry. My younger brother looked at the ceiling and smacked his lips. Sigh, "I should have eaten more at lunch." My sister-in-law's stomach also rumbled. She stroked Coco's head beside her and sighed. "Yeah, We gave most of the food to Coco. Now that I think about it, I feel so bad. My mother remained silent, not daring to say anything amidst the continuous sighs. I saw my father looking at Coco with a glint in his eye. The family was thus hungry for a day and a night. Logically speaking, if one works harder in the shelter, they can also get enough food to eat, but my younger brother and father were used to living an easy life. At home, they were used to being served. The two of them were only willing to order others around and didn't want to do any work themselves since the men in the family were unwilling to work. And my sister-in-law was pregnant and considered too precious to work because she was carrying a son. The only one left who could work was my mother. She worked miserably among a group of men, doing carry work, but due to her old age and poor health, she sprained her back within just one morning. The family only exchanged their labor for a small piece of bread and half a bottle of drinking water. My father and younger brother ate most of the bread, and my sister-in-law drank all the water. By the time it was my mother's turn, there were only crumbs left. My mother licked her chapped lips and lay on the tattered bed, crying about her hard life. At this moment, she thought of me and sighed with a sad face. If that damned girl were here, she would surely leave me some food. I raised her so big, she wouldn't just watch her mother die, would she? I watched coldly. Her current fate was of her own making. Only when the slap lands on your own face do you know how much it hurts. The pain of being starved, ordered around, and insulted was something she could only understand when it happened to her. 5. I took my eyes off the screen and looked at the landscaped garden in the distance. With the powerful help of the system, I had free labor, zombies, to help me set up a barbecue party in the garden. The zombies worked in an orderly manner, conscientiously carrying heavy barbecue grills, camping tents, huge tomahawk steaks, whole roasted lambs, etc. In a short while, everything was set up, and then they left one by one in the direction of the gate. I sighed. These were truly green and recyclable resources, compared to my mother's hard work in the shelter, where she barely managed to expand the shelter a little. My ease here was beyond their wildest imagination. Finally, when night fell, under the beautiful night sky, I lit the bonfire and enjoyed this solo barbecue party. At the same time, my father set his sights on Coco, who was sleeping soundly beside my sister-in-law. His saliva was almost dripping after I finished enjoying the deliciously roasted whole lamb and sat back in front of the screen with a fruit platter. My father had already snapped Coco's neck. The poor little dog let out a whimper and died. My sister-in-law woke up with a scream. Coco, my baby, you have to pay for Coco's life. My sister-in-law hysterically fought with my father over Coco's body. Her sharp nails scratched several bloody marks on my father's arm. My younger brother stood there stunned, watching the argument between my sister-in-law and father. At a loss for what to do, my father glared fiercely and shouted at my younger brother. Donovan, what are you standing there for? It's just a dog. If we kill it, we'll have something to eat. Upon hearing this, my younger brother, who had been hesitant, swallowed hard at the sight of the dog meat. He immediately understood the situation, and when he looked back at his wife, his eyes were filled with determination. Normally, when it didn't matter much, my younger brother was willing to indulge his wife, but now he was extremely hungry, and the temptation of filling his stomach by killing the dog was too great. He no longer cared about what his wife thought. My younger brother reached out and grabbed his wife's hair. She let go in pain and shouted, Donovan, you coward, how dare you hit me? Enraged by her words, my younger brother slapped her across the face. You damned woman, don't you see the situation we're in? What's a dog? If I get desperate, I'll kill you too. My sister-in-law was frightened by the bloodlust in my younger brother's eyes and didn't dare to argue anymore. My father triumphantly dragged Coco by one leg, leaving a long trail of blood on the ground as he pulled the body towards a large pot in an open area. The fire had just been lit, and the water in the pot was boiling hot. My father threw Coco's body into it. After the water bubbled and boiled, the cooked dog meat was fished out. The enticing aroma drew the whole family around. My father and younger brother, ignoring the heat, were the first to tear off the dog legs and start gnawing, shouting how delicious it was as they ate. My mother carefully tore off some meat and put it in her mouth, chewing. The more she ate, the more she wanted, and her eyes narrowed with satisfaction. As for my sister-in-law, who had initially resisted, when she realized she wouldn't get any if she didn't start eating, She also started tearing at the dog meat and devouring it. Once she started, she couldn't stop. In the end, she was the one who grabbed and ate the most, with her mouth full of meat. She made excuses. Anyway, I'm the one who raised Coco, it's only fair that I eat the most. What a hypocritical and beastly family, wearing the guise of humanity. From the moment Coco was brought into the shelter, I knew this day would come. In essence, selfishness and hypocrisy were ingrained in their bones. What was the difference between their savage behavior and that of the flesh-eating zombies? I thought to myself that it was almost time to contact this family and give them a shock. After eating the dog meat, the family lay down contentedly with their bulging stomachs. My father smacked his lips, picked his teeth, and said, "This can't go on like this. We need enough food." My younger brother immediately shirked the responsibility. "I'm not going to work. I can't carry those heavy goods." My mother groaned, clutching her back, saying she couldn't do it either. My sister-in-law naturally refused as well, shouting, "I even sacrificed Coco. You should be grateful to me. It's not my turn to work now, right?" My father sighed. "Well, the food you get from working here isn't enough anyway. The best treatment in the shelter goes to the exploration teams that go out to find supplies. I heard that each of them gets several pieces of bread, plus meat and milk." My younger brother slumped and mumbled, "What's the use of envying them? None of us have the ability to fight the zombies outside." Just as they were worrying, my father noticed that his phone had a signal. "Hey, what?" I suddenly have a video call. When he checked, he saw that it was me calling. My father's eyes widened. "Didn't Jade die a long time ago? Why is she calling?" My younger brother answered the call before him. "Whatever, let's answer it first." I deliberately made the call, intending to show this family my comfortable life now and set a trap for them. When the video connected, I was sitting in the luxurious living room of the villa. I deliberately adjusted the angle so that they could clearly see the abundant food behind me. I gracefully bit into a tomahawk steak, and the sound of me chewing made the whole family stare in envy. My father drooled so much that he stammered, "Jade, you're not dead. Where did you get so much food? Our whole family hasn't eaten for a day or two and has nothing to eat. Where are you? Tell Dad quickly." I pretended to be surprised, casually threw the tomahawk steak, which I had only taken one bite of, into the trash can, burped, and said, "Ah, Dad, how could you have no food? I have so much delicious food here that I can't even finish it all. There are steaks, burgers, hot pot, barbecue. I can have whatever I want." My mother was anxious when she heard this, seeing me living so well. She angrily scolded me, "You damned girl, are you doing this on purpose? Your parents and your brother are suffering outside, and you're enjoying yourself alone." I said pitifully, "Mom, you guys were the ones who left me behind, but I really should thank you." Shortly after your helicopter left, another one came to pick me up and brought me to this villa. They said this is a high-end shelter where one person can have an entire villa and never worry about food or drink. My younger brother pushed my mother aside, annoyed that she was blocking the phone screen. His eyes were fixed on the steak I had thrown into the trash can. He swallowed and asked, "You can eat tomahawk steaks anytime you want." My father slapped him and said impatiently, "What a pathetic sight." Then he looked at me with an uncharacteristically pleasant expression. "Jade, I've been a responsible father to you, right? I've never hit or scolded you, have I?" I thought to myself, not hitting or scolding is considered being responsible. It's too easy to be a father like that. I smiled and said, "Dad has always been good to me." Good, Jade, for the sake of our family, tell Dad how to get to this shelter and where it is. I knew my father had taken the bait and lied. "It shouldn't be far from you, at most 3 kilometers. But it's very dangerous on the way here. There are zombies everywhere, and you need someone to escort you. Dad will figure it out. Just send me the address." I nodded and sent him a random address on my phone. "This is the location of my shelter, Dad. I'll be waiting for you." After hanging up, I continued to watch the screen. My father looked at the address on his phone, his hand trembling. We're saved. After the initial excitement, he felt extremely resentful. Come to think of it, why does that jinx Jade get to be in such a high-end shelter while we're stuck in this lousy place? He stood up abruptly. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. "I'm not convinced. I'm going to find the leader." My father left the shelter holding his phone and headed straight for the central area of the shelter. trying to find the highest ranking person in charge. He didn't notice that his phone had already lost its signal, and the so-called address I sent him couldn't be refreshed at all. This was, of course, the work of my system. This stupid family of mine didn't stop to think that with the city surrounded by zombies, the signal towers had long since fallen, and there was no one to maintain the network signal. Now, the only way to communicate between shelters was through military satellite phones. When my father found the person in charge, Cedric, he was arranging the latest search mission for the exploration team. My father shouted recklessly, "Leader Cedric! Leader Cedric, I need to talk to you." Leader Cedric frowned and motioned for the staff blocking my father to move aside, allowing my father to approach. My father was excited, his face filled with indignation. "Leader, why do some people have an endless supply of food and live in big villas in their shelters, while we can only sleep on the floor? The resource allocation is so unfair. I want to apply to transfer to another shelter." Upon hearing my father's words, Leader Cedric's expression changed dramatically. "What nonsense are you talking? In a state of war readiness, there's no shelter with such conditions. There's a limit to your unreasonable behavior." My father stamped his foot and raised his voice, trying to attract more attention. "You're hiding the truth from us. I saw it with my own eyes. In the shelter where my daughter is, there's plenty of food and drink. The food is piled up like a mountain. It's nothing like here, where we have to work to get a piece of cold bread every day." My father's words caused an uproar. The people around him looked over and started whispering, "Aren't the supplies in the shelters uniformly distributed? Is it true that there's so much food?" As he said, "Could it be a place for the privileged class? Are they still showing special treatment in the apocalypse?" My father's words caused a commotion. Leader Cedric asked the staff to give him a loudspeaker and addressed the crowd. "What he said is completely unfounded. Don't believe him. There are always troublemakers like him who want to undermine unity." My father continued to shout, "You're the liar. I saw it with my own eyes. It's just 3 kilometers away." Seeing that my father was still stubborn, Leader Cedric ordered his men to take him away. "We don't need to protect people who undermine unity. Cancel all his food and water supplies." My father was carried away by 2 burly staff members. He struggled and tried to fight back, but was kicked to the ground by each of them. He groaned, clutching his stomach, seemingly seriously injured. My father was locked up alone in a tiny surveillance room where he could barely turn around. He went from initially shouting in defiance to finally crouching down in despair. This man, who was used to being domineering at home and threatening me with his fists, finally experienced the threat of force he couldn't resist and now felt the helplessness of the weak. My father crouched on the ground, looking remorseful. "Please, please don't lock me up. I just want something to eat. Just give me something to eat." 6. When the news of my father being locked up spread, the family reacted differently. My mother looked relieved, as there was one less person oppressing her. My younger brother was a bit regretful, but he didn't have the courage to oppose the entire shelter for his father's sake. He could only mutter, "Forget it, the old man has lived long enough anyway." My sister-in-law's expression was hard to read. Her eyes glanced at the exploration team preparing to leave the shelter. Most of the men in the team were soldiers, single, strong, and more importantly, they had good treatment in the shelter with no worries about food and drink. At night, my mother couldn't fall asleep. My younger brother was sleeping soundly on his back, mumbling about roast duck and chicken legs in his dreams. My sister-in-law said she was going to the toilet, but she didn't come back for a long time. I asked the system to call my mother. When the phone rang, my mother hesitated for a few seconds and finally answered. She gritted her teeth and said in a low voice, "Jade, it's all your fault that your father is almost dead." Now she pretended to be very concerned about my father and shifted the blame to me. I was used to her twisting the truth, pretending to be sad. I replied, "What happened to Dad? How could it be so serious? It's all because you encouraged your father to leave the shelter. Now he's been beaten up and locked up by the leader." I said pitifully, "But I didn't know Dad would be in such a hurry." I also said that if it's inconvenient for you to come here, I have another way for you to get food. My mother's eyes lit up at the mention of food. "What kind of food? Don't you dare lie to me, Mom. I'm your own daughter. Blood is thicker than water. How could I lie to you?" My mother snorted. "At least you have some sense. Tell me, where can we find food?" I had already arranged for the system to place some edible cans in a certain area of their shelter. Of course, these Cans were not ordinary meat cans but were prepared to give them a surprise. I lowered my voice and pretended to be mysterious. Mom, don't tell anyone about this. I heard that many senior officials in the shelters hide cans. You can look around the entrance and exit of the shelter, even if a place looks unimpressive but has a special mark. There might be cans hidden there. My mother was still skeptical. How do you know all this? I said innocently. Maybe it's because my shelter is more advanced and has more information. Mom, just go and take a look. If you find something, you'll know I'm not lying. When people are in a state of long-term hunger, they tend to lose their rationality. After hanging up, my mother tossed and turned for a while, then suddenly got up and decided to check it out. It was late at night, and most people in the shelter had already turned off the lights and gone to sleep. Only those who came out to use the toilet from time to time were still walking around. Although there were staff guarding the entrance of the shelter, no one could really guard against the zombies, and it was mostly for show. It was almost time for the shift change, and the guards were starting to doze off. My mother took the opportunity to search around the entrance. Finally, under a trash can marked with a triangle, she found a hidden compartment. She pulled away the plastic panel of the compartment and saw 4 or 5 boxes of neatly stacked meat cans underneath. There really is food. My mother couldn't help but exclaim, then quickly covered her mouth and lowered her voice. She quickly picked up the cans, hid them in her coat, and happily rushed back to the shelter. I watched as my mother couldn't wait to open a can and started eating the meat with her hands. Delicious. That damned girl didn't lie to me. There really is meat. I sneered as I watched my mother eat with oil dripping from her mouth. Eat up, eat as much as you want. This might well be your last meal. Although there were only 5 cans, my mother has always doted on her precious son. Before she had eaten much herself, she quickly woke my younger brother up. Son, wake up, hurry up and wake up. My younger brother woke up groggily. As soon as he saw the food, he immediately exclaimed, Mom, where did you get this? My mother immediately motioned for him to lower his voice. Keep it down. There are only a few cans. Hurry up. Fortunately, your useless wife isn't here. Let's share them between the 2 of us. My younger brother nodded vigorously. Right, right. Don't give her any. That bitch doesn't know where she's gone. If she doesn't come back in the middle of the night, she must have gone to find another man since she knows we have nothing to eat. My mother also said angrily, if it weren't for the baby she's carrying, I would have kicked her out long ago. As my younger brother ate the canned meat, he mumbled, that's right, women are all good for nothing. My mother mindlessly agreed with everything my younger brother said, nodding along, without realizing that she was also insulting herself. After the 2 of them were full, my younger brother licked his lips, still savoring the taste. Mom, why does this meat taste so good? It's much more incense than the canned food I've eaten before. My mother smiled and affectionately patted my younger brother on the head. Silly boy, we haven't had anything good to eat in the past day or 2. Of course it tastes good. The 2 of them fell asleep happily hugging the cans of meat. It wasn't until the middle of the night that the sound of a woman's heavy breathing came from the toilet in front of their shelter. The familiar voice woke my younger brother up instantly. He held his breath and listened for a while, then his eyes widened suddenly, and the veins on his forehead stood out. Damn it, that must be Hope's voice. He stood up quickly and walked out of the shelter, not caring about the smell. He pushed open the door of the toilet. In the toilet, filthy water was everywhere, but it couldn't hide the scandalous scene. The person with my sister-in-law in the toilet cubicle was a burly male member of the exploration team. You too, you have no shame. My younger brother was furious when he caught them in the act. Only then did my sister-in-law open her eyes. When she saw my younger brother, a look of disgust crossed her face. I wondered who it was. Isn't this the useless filial son? My younger brother clenched his fists, but knowing he couldn't beat the male team member, he cowered like a quail. Yet his eyes were threatening. Aren't you afraid of retribution? You're still carrying my son. My sister-in-law laughed dismissively. What retribution? The zombies are here. Isn't that the biggest retribution? If we're all going to die, I just want to find a more capable man. The male team member was pleased and became even more enthusiastic. My younger brother was angry for a long time. Realizing he couldn't compete with the male team member, he had an idea. Before leaving the toilet, he threatened, you look down on me, huh? Just you wait. My younger brother had been pampered since childhood and had never suffered. Now, seeing his wife taken away by another man. How could he swallow his anger without hesitation? He went back to the shelter and took out the cans, wanting to prove that he was capable and at least able to get meat to eat. My younger brother held up the can of meat in front of his wife. Look, I have meat. Does he? All he has is a few pieces of bread, right? My sister-in-law's expression changed. She asked in surprise, how could you possibly have canned meat? The male team member also stopped what he was doing and looked up at the can in my younger brother's hand. He snatched it away, sniffed it, and his face turned pale. Did you hide this meat? My younger brother didn't realize the danger he was in and was still showing off. Yeah, there aren't many people who have meat these days, right? I'm asking you, do you admit defeat? The male team member looked at my sister-in-law seriously. Did you know about this? My sister-in-law was quicker witted and immediately sensed something was wrong. She quickly excused herself. I didn't know. This is all the Donovan family's business. The male team member nodded, pulled up his pants, gave my younger brother a few glances, and then left the toilet. My younger brother thought he had won and showed off to his wife. Humph. When it comes to strength, it's still me, Hope. I'm telling you, you'll definitely regret it if you leave me. For example, right now, I won't give you a single bite of this canned meat. As soon as they left the toilet and returned to the shelter, the male team member came with several staff members. Walking at the end was actually Leader Cedric, the highest ranking person in charge. Leader Cedric looked at them coldly, called my sister-in-law, younger brother, and mother out to stand in line. After scanning them with his eyes for a while, he waved his hand and ordered the staff, search them. My mother immediately became anxious. This is outrageous. The leader is bullying the people. Why are you searching us without any reason? My younger brother chimed in. That's right, pointing at the male team member. He said angrily, he's definitely taking revenge and framing good people. As a result, the staff found the remaining 3 cans in the shelter. As soon as they were taken out, they were handed to Leader Cedric. He sniffed them and then understood. His tone became even colder. This meat is problematic. Could it be? My mother's legs went weak with fright. My younger brother was also stunned. Remembering how much he had eaten, he felt nauseous and wanted to vomit. The surrounding crowd had already gathered to watch the commotion. When they heard that my mother and younger brother had eaten human flesh, they became furious. They ate people. My God, how could there be such beasts in the shelter? What's the difference between people eating people and zombies eating people? Yeah, my daughter was eaten by zombies. I hate them. Maybe they've already been infected. What normal person would eat human flesh? The voices of the crowd grew louder and louder, and the staff could barely hold back the angry mob. Leader Cedric also looked at my younger brother and mother as if they were aliens. As for my sister-in-law, thanks to the male team member's protection, who stated that she wasn't aware of the situation, she was now leaning against the male team member's strong arm, staying out of the matter. At first, some people in the front of the crowd tentatively waved their fists and kicked out to vent their anger. Later, when my younger brother and mother were covered in blood, the bloody sight reminded more people of their family members who had recently been bitten to death by zombies. I want to avenge my family. People who eat others are traitors to humanity. More and more angry voices merged together. The uncontrollable crowd surged towards my younger brother and mother like a tide, and countless fists and kicks rained down on them. The irrational crowd didn't care about anything. In just a minute or two, my younger brother and mother were beaten to death. Watching all this in front of the screen, I felt no pity at all as I saw my younger brother and mother lying on the ground like mud, lifeless. I remembered that during the beating, my mother realized that I was the one behind the scheme. While enduring the intense pain, she used the most vicious language to curse me. Her expression was as if she wanted to devour me alive, but I never regretted it, because their current outcome was entirely their own doing. After being reborn, I did not give them opportunities, but they pushed me into the abyss again and again, choosing to abandon me just because they thought I was a burden. Originally, with the help of the system, I could have allowed them to live a life without worries about food and safety, a prosperous life. They were the ones who chose to push that opportunity away. As for my sister-in-law, I can still clearly remember how, in the previous life, she sat arrogantly in the helicopter and deliberately pushed me out for the sake of a dog, causing me to be bitten to death by zombies. This woman, who is rotten to the core, I will punish her. Last 7, without the Donovan family as her backer. My sister-in-law latched onto the male team member and followed him to a more advanced residence. However, my sister-in-law was after all a woman who had been with someone else. After a few days of being with her, the male team member found her boring and wanted to dump her, but by then, my sister-in-law had no one else to rely on. For a bite of food, she knelt down and begged the male team member desperately, saying she would do anything for him and learn any tricks he wanted. In just 3 days, she had lost the arrogant look she used to have in front of my family and became a pitiful woman selling herself for survival. When I saw that she was on the verge of a mental breakdown, I called her when the male team member went out to search for supplies. When she saw my video call, she initially didn't want to answer, but after hesitating for a long time, she couldn't resist the temptation. When the video connected, unlike when I deceived my parents, I didn't say anything ambiguous. I knew that my sister-in-law wasn't that easy to deceive. She was both evil and cunning to the bone. I looked at her indifferently. She was gaunt, with ragged clothes, while I, well-fed, had a healthy glow and was full of energy. My sister-in-law looked at me angrily. Why? How can you live so well? Why? I didn't say anything and just watched her lose her temper. She continued, wearing an expression as if she had seen through me. You deliberately killed your parents and younger brother, didn't you? Do you also want to kill me? I'm telling you, no way. I'm not stupid. I smiled. Do you want to know why I'm living so well? She stared at me intently, and the jealous look in her eyes seemed to pierce through the screen. I clapped my hands, summoned the system, and said in front of my sister-in-law, System, I want to eat Peking duck, right now. So my sister-in-law watched in disbelief as a plate of exquisite Peking duck appeared out of thin air in front of me. The duck was sliced, the pancakes were chewy, and all the side dishes and condiments were complete. See, do you still think I'm in some ordinary shelter? My sister-in-law was stunned, her face full of disbelief. How is this possible? How can food just appear out of nowhere? Only then did I tell her word by word that I had been reborn, how her family had treated me in the previous life, and that my current luxurious life was all thanks to the help of the system. On that day, after I detailed how, in the previous life without my interference, her family had lived in the shelter, my sister-in-law suddenly covered her head as if she was gradually remembering something. The huge shock caused her to gradually regain her memories. When her eyes cleared again, she looked at me in enlightenment. So that's it, so you were already dead. Ha 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 ha. I always said that a lowly person like you would never have a good ending, so you were reborn. As she spoke, she became more and more crazy. She rushed out of the shelter regardless of everything, and not even the staff could stop her determination to get out. Finally, to everyone's astonishment, my sister-in-law rushed out of the shelter gate. She shouted at the zombie horde in the distance, Come on, come and eat me. If you eat me, I can be reborn. I know what to do now. I can also live a good life. The staff in the shelter panicked, saying she had gone crazy, and quickly closed the gate again. As I wished, the screen switched to the outside of the shelter. The nearby wandering zombies soon noticed my sister-in-law and surrounded her, roaring as they approached, just like me in the previous life. She was surrounded by countless zombies. Their mouths wide open, they mercilessly bit into her flesh. It hurt so much. I regret it. In the intense pain, my sister-in-law came to her senses. She let out a scream and looked up at the sky with red eyes. Jade, I know you're watching. Aw, save me, please save me. My sister-in-law's screams came through the screen one after another. In the previous life, when I was being bitten by zombies and on the verge of death, I also begged my family for help like this. At that time, I also desperately wanted someone to save me, but they had already left in the helicopter, leaving me alone to be devoured by the zombies. Now, why should I forgive my evil sister-in-law? So I turned off the screen. The remaining time was only mine. Whether this family lived or died no longer mattered to me. Shortly after my sister-in-law was torn apart by the zombie horde, my father also starved to death in the shelter due to a long-term lack of water and food. After they all died, every day I either ate and drank happily in the villa or arranged for the system to regularly drop supplies near various shelters without leaving a trace. Now many people call me the god of airdrops, saying this is a true miracle. Days passed like this, waiting for the day when humanity would develop a serum. By then, the world would thrive again.